my junior and senior year, I had the chance to go work on a farm in Tennessee, and that was going to be kind of my first taste of real farm work.
We sat down and laid out, these are our expectations, and we want to grow the farm. And, people have talked to us about, why don't you sell it to more grocery stores or more restaurants? And we've far exceeded 50 families at this point.
It was in the middle of nowhere, back in this holler, and they did grass-fed beef and sheep and goats and chickens and pigs, and they just did it all. They did. You got to find what you're happy doing, or it doesn't matter how much money you're making. You're just going to be miserable, And
I want them to remember the farm as, fun.
Something they love to do.
a place to play, and run in the
Enjoy.
woods, and play with Oscar.
And learn and not even realize you're learning.
Yeah.
That's the truth.
So we're Nurtured Lands Farm, and we got that name based on a book by Wendell Berry, which, if you're familiar with him, he's a Kentuckian. He's an author. He's a farmer. He's in his late 80s now, I think. But if you're interested in agriculture at all, small towns, America, things like that, he's a great author. But in his book, The Unsettling of America, he wrote, "The exploiter's goal is money and profit. The nurturer's goal is health, his land's health, his own, his family's, his communities, his country's." And so that book, I listen to it probably once a year because I do a lot of audiobooks. And it's a really good story. It explains how agriculture in America got to where it is today. The first one was written in the 80s, maybe late 70s. And it just explains, where agriculture went wrong, how it went from a small family farm that could feed its community to now we've got these mega corporate farms and things like that. So Nurture Lands Farm is based on the idea that um, everything we do starts with the health of the soil. And if you don't have healthy soil, you won't have healthy forage, you won't have healthy animals, you won't have healthy meat. The people who eat that meat won't be healthy themselves. So it just all builds from the soil. And so if we do things that are going to degrade that soil, or we, just abuse it, if we look at a piece of land and try to say, what's the most we can get out of this? Uh, what's the most amount of money we can make off this piece of land? Then you're starting off asking the wrong questions. You should be starting with, how can I take care of this soil and be profitable from it at the same time? So that's kind of where we started with a philosophy. Um, and there's a lot that goes into that, thinking about our children, our marriage, the community. And so we can go a lot more in depth, but that's kind of the basis
Okay.
and the idea we have behind the way we farm.
Okay. Were you raised on a farm or
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So I'm from Paducah. I lived in Lone Oak, down the street from the ballparks. So, I was riding my bike around the neighborhoods, and um, not at all raised on a farm, but we would go once a week to Priorsburg, Kentucky. My grandparents lived there, had an aunt and uncle live there, and once a week in the summer, we would go with my mom, and we would go to my aunt and my uncle's house, and my uncle had horses and some cows at one point and pigs at one point, and I was a kid from the city, as big as Paducah is, but to me that was like the country, and
Right.
like it was a whole nother world. And so it was really cool. And when you're a little kid, you see all this stuff, you don't see the work behind it all, you don't see all the problems, and you just see farm animals, and you think this is really neat. And so I'm sure at that age, and as I grew up, I romanticized the idea of living on a farm and things like that. But I always loved being outside and being around animals. That never stopped. And so I went to school for pre-veterinary medicine at Murray State, animal health technology degree. And uh, between my junior and senior year, I had the chance to go work on a farm in Tennessee. And that was going to be kind of my first taste of real farm work. I'd worked around animals, but actually to live and work on a farm, I'd never done that before. And so I went down there for like an interview for this farm, and it was in the middle of nowhere, back in this holler. And they did grass-fed beef and sheep and goats and chickens and pigs, and they just did it all. They did dairy, um, and like on the interview, it was beautiful. The farm was beautiful. It was serene. It was uh, off by itself, and just everything about it, like this is awesome. And so they say, well, you can come work here. We've got a house you can live in. We'll get the goats off the porch for you.
Mhm.
We'll sweep all the cobwebs out. There's no running water in it, but there's electricity. There's no air. There's no heat, and then there's an outhouse in the lot where the pigs are.
Mm.
And they're like, but if you can have it if you want it, and I was like, that sounds good to me. Let's do
Yeah,
it. So
perfect, right?
me and two other guys lived in this house for the summer, and we would get up early and milk cows and work all day long and build fences and do all this stuff. And at the end of it, it was like that's awesome. I
Yeah,
this was I
that's
love it.
what you're
It
looking for.
wasn't. I came to the realization it wasn't just like what I wanted to do as a little kid. It was like this is actually what I would like to do. Um, so I don't know
Yeah.
where you want me to go from there.
No, that's good. So I just want to get a little background.
Yeah.
So, and then, so how do you kind of come into this story? Was it, oh, this guy is farming. I can't wait for him to take me out. That's what it was. Cute.
Um, I didn't go to vet school. I was working at Mayfield Veterinary Clinic, and I had graduated college, and I was thinking like, this isn't what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I can't stay here and do this job, and so I started looking for just about anything. And there was a job open with the USDA. It was in Iowa. And once again, I was like, well, I didn't know anybody in Iowa, never been to Iowa before, but
Yeah.
there was a job, it seemed to pay well. And then at the time, it was like I was living with my parents after college. And at that point, you're thinking, like, I got to get out of here. I can't live with my parents. I'm a college graduate.
Yeah.
I got to find a job. So off I went to Iowa and worked for the USDA for 3 years. While I was there, I don't tell I dated a girl.
Uh-oh.
Um, but then,
We need a little bit of
yeah,
controversy here.
yes.
So, yeah, we can do
So,
a Jerry Springer show
yeah.
here. Go
So
ahead. I'm sorry.
after 3 years, so me and the girl broke up, lost my place to live. The USDA or the whole government started cutting jobs. And so, they cut my job. And, I, looking at it at the time, I was like, I totally get why you're cutting this job. It wasn't the most integral job in the world. Um,
What time frame is this?
this 2008, I
Okay.
think.
Yeah. So there's a lot going
Maybe,
on.
no, I take that back. 20,
2012, you moved to Louisville.
yeah, because the Cardinals won the World Series
Oh
in
my
2011.
gosh.
That's how I remember. So, yeah, it was in 2011. I think Obama had made cuts to the federal government, and so they cut the program that I was working for. And so I was just like, it was a clear sign from God, the universe, like, your time in Iowa is over. You're moving on. So,
But the experience.
yeah.
I mean, that's the most important
Oh,
part.
yeah, it was a
Yeah.
great
Right.
Well,
experience.
it really opened his eyes to that side of farming, from the romantic farm in Tennessee
Yeah.
Yeah,
to mega
Yeah.
ag,
yeah,
And I have some
conventional
things
farming.
Yeah.
that's a good point. And that's something I really have a lot of questions about
yeah,
because I've seen some things that are somewhat disturbing, not even on the production of the food, but how the treatment of animals.
yeah.
So, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. So I
So
moved.
2012.
Yeah, 2012. I moved to Louisville, and a friend of mine, he put me up in his house. He was nice enough because I didn't really have anywhere to go. I started teaching at a small college, taught veterinary technology at a small college, and then I started working at a 24-hour emergency vet clinic. So, found two decent jobs. And then another friend of mine invited me to the St. Patrick's Day parade one Saturday. Uh, and then I met Kate at the St. Patrick's Day parade,
Yeah.
and we kind of hit it off. And the next morning, she went back to Cincinnati, and I stayed in Louisville. And
We were
sure.
not together the next morning.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
The way you said
I'm like,
that.
yeah,
No.
I'm sorry. I
No.
just caught that
We
too.
met on
We
Saturday.
met on
Yeah.
Saturday. I went
I
home.
lived in
You
Cincinnati.
just maybe went to dinner or something, right?
We
Well,
just
we
hung out all
hung
Yeah,
out
just
that
yeah, I got you.
day,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we parted that evening,
Yeah.
just so we're clear.
Yes.
Yes.
And then I reached out to her, and
There you go.
so the college that I taught at was called Brown Mackie College. It was a really small college, but they had a lot of campuses in different places. And there was a campus in Louisville, and there was a campus in Cincinnati. And so after we dated for a while, I thought,
Long distance, because he was
yeah.
living in Louisville, I was living in
And we would
Cincinnati.
drive back and
Yeah.
forth on the weekends and stuff. And so I was doing part-time teaching and working at that vet clinic. There was a full-time teaching position that opened up in Cincinnati. I thought this sounds
Worked out.
pretty good. So I moved up to Northern Kentucky, and we got more serious, and we married.
Well, engaged.
Yeah, we got
Call that more
engaged.
serious.
uh,
That's pretty serious.
yeah, so we
Generally.
moved pretty fast. We were engaged before dating a year. I think we dated for 11 months, got
Yeah.
engaged.
Yeah, I think we were older. So he was like 30, I was like 28 when we met.
Right.
So we were just a little bit
Yeah.
older. We talked very seriously very early about what we wanted out of life and marriage and religion and family and all the things. Um, so we put everything out in the open very early. It was a very open. So we just communicated very early what we were expecting out of life and marriage, religion and family. And I was warned he wanted to live on a farm at that time. Um, so it wasn't a big leap for us to get engaged fairly quickly. Um, and then we were married just a couple months after that on the beach. That was now 11 years ago.
11 years. So pretty
So,
close to when I got married to my wife.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And we went to the beach, so maybe we seen you
There
there.
you go.
which beach did you go to?
Where did we go? We went to the one with the big ball. We go there all the time. Tristan, Eden, where do we go? Well, we ended up there, and then we went on we actually ended
What's-
Miami Beach, yeah.
Oh,
And then we got on I was trying because we go to different ones, but we went to Miami, and then we got on a boat and went to the cruise
Yeah.
and
oh,
all
cool.
that stuff. And that was the last time we had a vacation. So
Right.
yeah, 10 years ago.
Uh,
So yeah, so you were saying how you kind of lined up. I think that's something that maybe when you're young and you get involved with someone, you're just like, oh wow, they're
Cute.
pretty and cute, and this guy's got a car, and
Yeah.
she's got her dad's got this, and but you never really line up those
Yeah.
pinpoints that you were talking about. What are your and this is something I just listened to a podcast about. Diary of CEO was talking to someone, and he was talking about how you should be more cautious about who you marry. I mean, it's a big deal. It's a very important part of your life. And say you spend so much of your time trying to get your credit worked out and you finally get it and you meet this person. Oh, well, she's got a lot of credit card debt, but
Yeah,
she's
but,
cute and she's got,
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I know that's kind of an important thing. And then on top of that, you got to line up all those other things like children,
Yeah.
Yeah.
some people, I know lots of people who chose not to have children. And then you also have people, you talked about religion and morals and things like that. Those things really do play a part.
Oh
And
yeah.
you don't want them to line up afterward,
No.
Well,
because you have to force them to then.
I think
So,
we had the advantage of, like she said, we were older. We were 30 and 28,
yeah,
and at that point, it was like, okay, we both knew like we wanted to be settling down with somebody, and
yeah,
so I wasn't going to waste time dating somebody that wasn't going to be good for me. I know she wasn't going to waste any
right.
time on me. And so like you quickly figure out like, is this someone you want to be with?
Yeah,
Do they have the same goals and everything like that? So it was easy once we had that conversation or figured it out. Like,
sure.
let's just move ahead.
Well,
Well,
and we were going to buy a farm later. I think that was also part of the deal.
Yeah.
We were going to
The
get it
farm
when we
was
were
not supposed to come
older
right away.
and
yeah,
more settled and had money and all the things before you make
Yeah.
that leap. But that's not how it worked out. So
sure. Well, that's important too, because you got to have someone that once you're going into something that they're going to have your back through the hard times.
Yeah.
And I just had that conversation right before you guys showed up with my wife. She came in and she's very supportive. She streams video games, which is something that's completely a new thing.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge at first. We may get into that a little bit, but she came here because I've got multiple businesses, and I've had one business for 5 years, and it's time for that business to start taking off. And I spend a lot of time there, but this is something I enjoy doing. And whether we actually got a sponsor the other day, so
All right.
we made a little money. But whether it does or not, this is I enjoy fishing and hunting and all that too. But this is kind of my fishing. This is the thing that I want to do,
Sure.
whether it pays me or not. And to have someone that'll back you on that, say,
Absolutely.
so and so said this, but hey, this is important for you, and this is important for us. So
Absolutely.
that's having that behind you. So when you guys had that conversation about the farm, how did that go? Was it something that let me think about this, or
I I don't think so. We both work really hard. We like to be outside. We're not afraid of hard work, digging a garden or chasing cows or loading pigs or whatever it is. So we love to be outside all the time, and we both worked really hard. I'm a big gardener. I do a lot with vegetable gardens and house plants or whatever, anything that I can grow. I'm super passionate about. Um, but I guess, do you want to talk about your masters and then why what's kind of
Uh,
next for us?
yeah. So go ahead. You have a
No,
question?
I was just gonna say I'm a big gardener too. I eat a lot of food from gardens that people bring me. But when I was younger on the cattle farm, we had 3 gardens, 3 big
Yeah.
gardens. My grandmother, I lived with, she went to town maybe once a month and bought any kind of provision she needed then.
Mhm.
But everything else was provided right there off that land for
Yeah.
us. And yeah, but I have to say, garden was hard.
Oh
It's
yeah.
hard.
I may jump back into it one day, like maybe do some something small like herbs or something. But I can remember being out there, and those gardens are so big, and
Yeah.
then on top of the other, it can be, yeah, pretty hard to do. But if you enjoy it and you love it,
Yeah.
and I love fresh produce, it's one of my favorite things. So
Well, we loaded chickens. We loaded 179 chickens last night. We started about 9:39,
Yeah.
whatever. And once we got done, I had the spotlight from the garage and I was tying up my tomatoes because the rain was so heavy.
pulling them down,
So
yeah,
then I was out there like 10:15 last night just tying up my tomatoes because
yeah.
they were.
So yeah, my wife's grandmother, they give me tomatoes every year, and they're the big beefsteak.
Hmm.
What is that? What they're called?
Yeah.
Yep.
Beefsteak tomatoes,
Hmm.
big, huge. And I just like them a little bit cold and a little salt,
Oh
and
yeah.
then done. That's dinner for me. Everybody looks at me kind of weird though. Um, I would like to talk about that a little more though, the vegetable side of what you guys are doing. But before that, you kind of treat me. How many chickens did you guys load last night?
Last night was 179.
So 179,
Yeah.
and
We picked them each up by hand. And then we put them in
wow.
a crate. And then we
Are
pick up crates.
Now, are they free range or however that's called, or
So,
what's a
if
you
you
can
know,
start, you can jump in anywhere you
no,
want
you're
if you
good.
want to backtrack, but
Well, if you're
we'll
familiar
circle
with,
back. Yeah.
yeah, if you're familiar with Joel Salatin, if you
Mhm.
looked up, so he does, they call them chicken tractors, and it's ours are a little different than his style, but it's basically a 10 by 10 coop with a big cattle panel that goes over the top, and then wire mesh around the outside. So it's more for predator protection than it is to contain the chickens,
Yeah.
because there's only 35 to 40 chickens per one of these, and they get moved every single day,
Twice
and
a day.
sometimes twice a day, depending on the size of the chicken. The bigger they get, the more waste they produce, and the faster you would need to move them. So we had 5 chicken tractors full that we move every single day. So are they free range? Technically, no, because they can't get out of those. Uh,
You
but they are moved to fresh grass every single day. So they are scratching through the dirt, eating bugs,
They're
eating
doing what they would
seeds.
normally
Yeah,
do
they're
free
doing. They get
range,
to
and
do
they're
all the
not.
things. They get to
Yeah.
be outside. They get to be on grass. Their waste is going straight onto the ground. And with the rain, in 2 weeks, all that waste will be incorporated into the dirt and the soil, and you'll see the reaction from the grass and the forage will flourish where they had been. So that's just one of the ways that, instead of having 10,000 chickens in a barn and then having to handle that waste and breathe that particulate and stuff like that, having them on the ground it just
It's
causes,
more natural.
yeah, it's more natural. It makes it more sanitary, because when we move them, the sun shines on the ground, it's going to dry it out, and the rain is going to soak it into the ground. And then, in 2 weeks, you're never even going to know the chickens were there, except the grass will be a lot greener than it was when the
Right.
chickens, before they came.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where nature and being natural, that's the natural way nature would take care of
Yeah.
that situation. And I guess, that's been a process nature's been developing over hundreds and thousands of years, I'm guessing. So it's going to be hard to beat that. So when you're talking about the chickens, I also recently heard about a farmer who their chickens grow so large that the legs break. I mean, is that myth? What am I hearing there, and
Well,
what is that about?
it
Is that steroids? I don't know.
No.
I'm just throwing something
Well,
out
the
there, you know.
breed that they raise, it's a Cornish cross, and I can't think of the name of the company that developed this breed, and it's just through
Genetics.
crossbreeding genetics, and they're designed to grow really fast. And it's actually the birds that we grow ourselves, but we put them on pasture instead of keeping them in a barn. So they will grow big enough that their hearts they'll have heart attacks. Yeah, they could probably break their legs because they're going to get really big, but they're not designed to grow for months and months and months.
Right.
So this was kind of one of the dilemmas we had when we started it, because being in Western Kentucky, telling people you're raising pasture raised chicken, they're already going to look at you a little weird. If you tell them, it took 16 weeks to raise this chicken and it's going to cost you $12 a pound, they're going to look at you really weird. So we kind of had to decide, okay, we can raise these chickens um, in a more humane way, you know,
Mm.
and still get the benefits of their genetics, because it is what people expect. When the people go to the grocery store, they expect a large chicken breast, um, and they have all these ideas they expect. So getting people to stop shopping at Walmart or whatever grocery store and come buy from us, we had to try to keep some things consistent for them. Our price went up a lot. The animal welfare got a lot better. The land use got a lot better. Our welfare, farmer welfare, is a lot safer raising them on pasture than in a 10,000 bird chicken house. But we were still able to keep somewhat the consistency of the meat that people expect.
Yeah.
by
So,
by
yeah,
using the Cornish cross. The 16 weeks that he's talking about would be, um, that's not Cornish cross.
no, yeah, a 16-week would be like a
Heritage
heritage
breed.
breed, and it's going to take a while to get that. And so a Cornish cross bird, it can be ready to go to processing in 7 weeks, 8 weeks. And I think that's what Joel Salatin raises, you
Yeah.
know. So, you know, in the barns, they may be feeding a low level of antibiotics as well, because, if you put 10,000
Yeah.
of anything in one room,
Yeah.
there's going to be disease. If you're breathing in fecal particulate every day, you're going to get sick. So you're going to need something to help you along. These birds are outside every day, they get moved every day. So we don't have to give them antibiotics. They definitely don't get hormones. I don't know that any chickens get hormones. I don't think they would need hormones
Yeah.
because they grow so fast anyway.
Yeah. I
But
think this.
definitely antibiotics are
Yeah.
probably given.
I know that there's kind of a myth about steroids too. I heard
Yeah.
that that was more of a myth that a
Well, it
lot of.
depends on the animal. I'm
Yeah.
sure beef cattle in some parts, they would get a steroid. They get a little chip in their ear, and that can help them grow a little bit faster.
Um. So was raised on cattle farm. We had probably 100, head, and we would move them around, and it was a lot of work in the wintertime, pasture to pasture.
Yeah.
It's a little sad now that when I look back on it, because of my grandfather and grandmother, they built it from nothing. They actually built their house from nothing, and but people don't do that anymore. They just everything's financed, and there's a different world. And at my age, growing up with them, they were. My grandfather fought in World War II, and he helped build the dam. So, multiple generations back, he
Hmm.
was pretty close to that, what they call the Great Generation. And I can't remember him ever speaking my entire life. My entire yeah, the entire time I was with him, he went to and he was full time farmer. Unfortunately, he died from a tractor accident, and then once he passed away, though, the farm kind of started falling apart, and a lot of that was because not to my dad or any of his sisters, not to their fault, but they decided to do other things. So the farm was then divided up and went from hundreds of acres,
Hmm.
to 10 acres here,
Yeah.
10 acres there, 10 acres there. Um, and then it just, but their lifestyle was so different from mine. I'm considerable, probably older than you guys, and I can remember growing up with that group because they were considerably older than me. Thinking back about how a cell phone nowadays, my grandmother had a phone on the
Yeah.
wall with a dial, and she paid like $8 or $7 a month. If she seen my cell phone bill now, she'd be right back in the grave because um but everything was just kind of provided for from those animals and all those gardens. Now the beef, though, we had a bull that came from the 4-H,
Oh yeah.
and it was tame, but it was a huge bull. I mean, enormous. We called it Bob, and I was
Ours is
probably
Steve.
hmm?
Ours is Steve.
Steve, yeah. So it's really friendly bull, until he wasn't. But I can remember at 7, that bull. My dad gave me some corn, and I went down to pour it on the ground, and I didn't see this bull. I turned looking at my dad and like this, and all of a sudden he pushes me out of the way of the corn. I go flying across. But at the same time, that same bull, I guess we got too close to another neighboring farm, and the two bulls
Oh yeah.
didn't like any kind of sharing. So they tore up like hundreds of yards of fencing
Yeah.
and just destroyed these posts, this big around. So, how many cattle do you guys have now?
So, well, we're only 35 acres of pasture, so we keep around 14, 15 head of cows. Um, we don't breed on our farm. We've actually got a really great couple that has mentored us. They raise grass-fed beef themselves. Toby Dulworth, Dogwood Farms in La Center, has been working on a herd of Hereford cows since the 90s, and he has bred them so that they would finish on grass well, because you can't just take any cow and put it out in the pasture and say, all right, we're going to grass finish this beef. A lot of these cows are just too big. Their frames are just way too large. They would just never finish.
Get
You would
enough
never get any
nourishment.
fat
At
on them.
this point.
Yeah, you
So,
would.
um, so we work with him. I buy, weaned calves from him, and so we're able to do about 14 or 15. We could probably move up to 20 head of cows, but again, that's a fine line of how much can I put on this pasture and keep it the way I want it, or when do I start putting too many animals out here, and now we're starting to degrade the soil instead of enhance it.
Yeah, that's an easy thing to do by accident.
Oh
You
yeah,
you
yes,
can grow so big. When I started my shop building cars, it was during COVID. I mean, January 2020 when we
Oh,
started,
so
and
sorry.
we were like, well, we can build a car or two, and then they could turn into one, and then you're like, well, if we had another one, we could pay this, and we could do a new paint booth. And before you know it, now I've got 18,000 square foot. I got tons of people working, and it's just a nightmare. It got way more than where I wanted to be with
yeah.
it, and it turned into something that I really wasn't wanting. And I
Hmm.
know that's easy to do, and probably in you guys' situation where it'd be like, well, we can take on, some a piece of property comes available, and you start making some of those small sacrifices,
We've
right?
been extremely controlled. So before we started, we had a business plan and a lot of communication, like we've already talked about. And in the business plan, we wanted 50 families. If we could just support 50 families in Western Kentucky with the meat they need for the week
Yeah.
or the year, whatever, that would sustain the farm and like the community and everything that we needed. Um, but sustaining our finances, sustaining our marriage,
Mm.
sustaining our children, along with the grass and the animal welfare and everything. We're a cash. If we can't buy it in cash, we can't have it on the farm. We don't take
That's
on
great.
debt. We don't take on loans. But we made that decision before we bought any farm or talked about a farm or got serious about a farm was, we sat down and laid out, these are our expectations and we want to grow the farm. And, people have talked to us about why don't you sell to more grocery stores or more restaurants and we've far exceeded 50 families at this point. But we, it's been very slow. We've done one enterprise, adding a year, adding chickens or adding laying hens or adding meat chickens, um, because sustaining our marriage is a big part for us. Making sure that it's just the two of us. We don't have
Mm.
anybody that works for us.
Oh, really? That was a question I was going to get
Nope.
into, is
It's just
how many
just the
people you
two of
have there.
us. Nope,
Till
just
the
the two of
kids
us.
get bigger.
Well,
Yeah, our
yeah.
10-year-old's starting to help. Um, but making sure that all the decisions we make, even as eager as we are to grow and go to the next level, if it's not healthy for us, if it's not fun for us, if we're getting buried by debt or buried by obligations or buried by stress, that's not the life that we agreed that we wanted.
Yeah.
So we make decisions based on that.
So that was a real smart way to go about it. I can't say that I've been that smart. I wish that I could go back and do things a little differently sometimes. But how did you come up now, so you were 28 and
30,
30-ish, and
30.
you guys made these decisions going in. How did you have the wisdom to do that? I mean, who told you
Experience.
from experience before? I mean, at
Yeah.
28, how much though could you have?
Well, I
Quite
will
a bit?
say we are very lucky that Kate has an off-farm job. We would not be able to do what we do without that income. So it's not like this farm is supporting family of five and all that. It's supporting itself. It's feeding us. It's doing well. But without Kate's other job, and I think a lot of farmers run into that too. They have off-farm jobs and or a spouse that has a job or something like that. So, but that still doesn't change where we are financially. So
Yeah. Well, what I was thinking is, at 28, I'm sure you've had a lot of experience, but sometimes those negative experiences come with negative responsibilities. So, say if at 28 you've had two or three businesses that have failed, and then now you go into this negative. So, you had to have some kind of something to tell you, wait, let's hold on, let's not go, don't go back out yet. Let's think about this a minute
my
before.
dad always taught me financial responsibility. So it
Okay.
was,
Yeah.
just growing up.
My dad taught me financial. That's funny. My dad taught me financial responsibility by learning what not to do.
Okay.
So his dad
So
taught him. I just watched.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Yeah, I think patience sometimes is the hard part because you just want to go.
yeah,
When I started my first one up, my shop, I worked on what airlines and plumbing, and because the building was down for a long time, and I'm like, when are we ever going to work on a car?
yeah.
And now I'm like, oh man,
but I think fundamentally the very core foundation of everything that we do has to do with health and sustainability. And if our marriage isn't healthy and if our finances are not healthy, everything else will crumble.
yeah,
And so I think just like I said, we talked very early about what we expected from each other and from life together, and health and health in
yeah,
every aspect of health, financial health, health in our marriage, health with our family, health with religion, health with our farm or whatever. Um,
and
we
mentally, the
Yeah.
mentally,
stress
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
is in
Well,
a
that's
lot.
what if we overextend ourselves, if we took out a loan to try to make a payment for a
Then
tractor or anything, then that's just a constant weight on you, and we would just feel obligated to, oh, we got to do this and this and this. And
right,
right now, it's like, the farm is financially stable. Uh, we haven't bought meat from the grocery store for 5 years. Our kids are healthy. We're good what we're doing. And we will ask, can we get a little bigger? This year we added another uh, two chicken tractors, so we did another
So we did
couple hundred.
600 chickens this
Yeah,
year.
so we expanded the chicken because we saw where we were. We thought, if we do a little bit more, we'll still be fine. So we go into it, you know, we don't just make any decision because, yeah, sure, whatever.
right.
We make sure
It's
it's not going to overextend us at
right.
all.
So basically, you're keeping your business plan, and then when anything that moves forward, you're applying a new business plan for that particular part, so that
And
you're good
checking
there.
it against
Yeah, currently.
our original
Yeah.
goals and plan. Another thing that way before we bought the farm, when I was approached with this idea, um, I said, if you want to be a farmer, we will still travel. It will be very difficult, but
Um,
traveling is important to me. It's something we did a lot together before we had the farm, and I want my kids to experience it. So it's very difficult for him to leave the farm because we
yeah.
have to have farm sitters, and there seems to always have something go wrong just when it's somebody that's not their own farm. Um, but we have kept that promise that we will continue to travel even though it's really, really hard
Right.
any time of year to
Because it's
leave.
really, really important.
It was
Yeah.
really important to us.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
agreed on that
You guys are
before we
answering
started.
a lot of questions before I asked them, because that was one of them. Because my wife just recently kind of got into not a production farm, but we had goats, and because they're cute, and we have a horse and a pony because they're cute, and multiple dogs. But whenever it is time to go, if you want to go do something, you have to arrange a lot
Yeah,
of things, and I can
it can be tough.
imagine in your situation, and it's much more. you're giving a lot of responsibility to somebody because it's not just your pets, which are very important, but this is y'all's livelihood,
Yeah.
which is, so,
One trip,
um,
we had a freezer go out.
mm,
That
Hmm.
was terrible. We learned about freezer alarms. So now all of our freezers have alarms that will call his phone if we drop temperature.
okay.
So that was not fun to come home to.
I can imagine. Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah. So when you go to, so one of the things about chicken is have a couple of different restaurants, and I've noticed over the years that there's a different texture to the chicken, and that I'm sometimes, not always, but there's a really a different, and it's like, I'm like, okay, this is that kind of chicken. So I just throw it away. I can't, it's a weird bite to it.
Hmm.
And it's almost, it doesn't seem, is that me or is that a real thing?
No, well, like I said, we haven't bought meat in 5 years, but we still have customers come to us and say, I just can see the difference in this chicken. Um, so, it's what they're eating. Just it's probably just being outside and being able to move and free movement. An animal that works its muscles and does things is going to be, it's just going to be a different feel than an animal that sits around all day and does nothing but eat. So, like I said earlier, our chickens on grass, they eat clover, they eat grass seeds, they're eating crickets and grasshoppers and any bug that comes by, and they're scratching in the dirt and eating other worms and things like that. So I
So,
haven't noticed it lately just because I don't eat, you know, chicken from the grocery store, but definitely think we had a customer last week say something about the texture of our chicken and the taste of our chicken was different.
And I,
yeah,
I think people get really confused by the labels too. So we say pasture raised. That to us means once they come out of the brooder, which they have to stay in for heat purposes. Once they come out of the brooder, it's whole life on pasture. So to us, that's pasture raised.
yeah,
But there are, in my opinion, misleading labels out there, such as free range or what's the other one that's uh, it's like they can be 10,000 chickens in a barn with a 1 by 1 door and a,
yeah,
5 foot square concrete pad and call it like free range
yeah. They're just
because,
looking for a technical term that they can
yeah. And so
technically get by with. Yeah,
we
Right.
say all the time, know your farmer. Like if
yeah,
you want to know what our animals' conditions are, come on out. Like come and look and see what the animal welfare is like at our farm because it's we don't need a label
yeah,
because you can just see it.
yeah. And I think that goes, I don't know. When you go back to, let's say, the Native Americans, it was important to them, even, they didn't do a lot of animal farming, but when they killed an animal, it was important to them that they honored that animal. And there was lots of rituals that different ones would do to show respect for the animal and appreciation for what it's giving to their community. And I come from a family of hunters, and my wife really comes from a big family. She was raised, she loves it. I think sometimes she goes though more for the photo shoots, she wants to, but my youngest son has gotten, he's 8, so it's military this and gun that,
Yeah.
and he's going out into the woods and coming back with jawbones from something he
Oh, okay.
found.
Oh, we have that, yeah.
So, but at the same time, he the other day he wanted to go something. I don't know if it was a bird. I think he just wanted to go bird because one of his friends from school talked about bird hunting with his
Hmm.
BB gun, and I'm saying, and I wanted to tell him try to express to him that hunting can be exciting and fun, but at the same time, we don't just hunt to kill. We want to
Right.
hunt something to honor that animal. And I see that. I watched a documentary several years ago about a meat processing factory down in New Mexico, and they had hidden cameras. And I do understand that we can go the wrong way with this. PETA can sometimes go the wrong way with things, but they can also nail things
Oh, yeah.
without a doubt. And they went into this farm, and these cattle were being, strung up. And I was raised on a cattle farm, so I knew the difference. They were stringing them up alive and cutting. They would just bam, bam, cut their legs off and gut them alive. Of course, they shut this place down,
Yeah.
and it was over. But how many other places are like that, And I also grew up in a small town. And I knew the local meat market there too, and they get crass to it. It's just so much
Yeah.
every day that it's they don't. I don't even
And when
think
you
they see
see
the.
them, if you raise 10,000 chickens at a time, it's no longer a chicken. It's a commodity. It's a thing.
Yeah,
If you're raising um, beef in a feedlot and there's thousands of cows, they're no longer individual animals. They're things. They're
yeah,
things to be moved from point A to point B, and then they go to the slaughterhouse, and that's it. So, I definitely feel every time I take an animal, if I take it animals, it's one beef at a time. And so, and it's an animal that I've had for 2.5, 3 years, and I've got 14 cows. So you build not like a relationship. I don't name them. I definitely don't name them.
Kids do.
yeah,
But this animal, and the closer you are to where your food is, the more respect you're going to have for what it has gone through, what it's done. The pigs are the same way. We do small. We've got 11 hogs right now, so we don't ever do like a whole lot of animals. 179 chickens. That sounds like a lot, but there's pastured
oh,
poultry people that they do 1,000 chickens per barn or per coop that moves every single day. So they make really big pasture tractors for chickens. So um, the slaughterhouses, the factory farms, it's not animal, it's a commodity. It
yeah,
is something to be handled and to be moved from point A to point B. And you get it in the grocery store, and then even when it's sitting on the shelf of the grocery store, it's easy to look at it like cereal, bananas, chicken.
right.
This wasn't a living thing. This is just what we're going to take home and cook. So um, yeah.
I think we. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So one thing that I think is pretty cool is when we started, they said, what do you, they're called offals, OFFAL, is like the intestines and like those type of parts of the animal. And we wanted to get them back because, again, with the respect and honoring every part of the animal, we didn't know what we were going to do with them. And thankfully, we have found customers in Western Kentucky that argue about who gets them now.
Oh, wow,
So I
that's
have to
awesome.
be careful that I call this customer this time and the next customer the next time because, and in the beginning, we didn't even know what we were going to do with them. I just didn't want them to be waste.
Yeah,
So we got them back and we're like, how are we going to price these? What are we going to, we're like, I don't know, but since we've been doing it now, we've actually developed customers for all the cuts. Most people want chicken breast and ground beef and a steak, but we have a lot of customers that are asking, well, can I get a spleen? Can I get, what do we have last?
Kidneys
Kidneys,
and
chicken heads.
gizzards. Yeah.
hmm
Um, and we're like, great. Like that's more of
that's
the
awesome.
animal that we can't always get it, the spleen and the chicken heads we did not get. But um, yeah, it's just nice to try to.
It's just more respect for the animal.
Yeah,
It had a great life. It had
sure.
one bad day, but then we want to honor the rest of the animal
Yeah,
by using as much of it as possible.
absolutely. I that's something I fully believe in doing. I'm going to back you there for sure. So, I had so many questions, and I know I'm just sitting there going, "She wanting to go to dinner
No,
tonight,"
no,
and
no. You're
but
good.
I'd rather talk
so
Keep going.
many questions going
We're
through my
good.
head, and I usually write these down as I'm
You're
talking.
good.
But just so for everybody out there, this is a new studio. This is our first guest in our new studio, and it's far from done. But
It's
I
okay.
do have so many questions, and they just keep coming to my mind. So, and I don't want to do them out of order. So I would like to talk a little bit about um, you're using a lot of your, I guess, your waste products to go back into the farm to the farm. Am I
Well, all
right?
the animal feces, yes.
Yeah. So that goes back
That's
into
nitrogen. That's
no,
free fertilizer.
right, and that goes into your gardening and
No,
Well, the
it
brooder waste does.
yeah, brooder waste we can scoop out and we compost it so it doesn't go straight into the garden. So
Yeah.
it gets composted,
right. I figured there was a
and then she
process.
can use it in her garden. But cows, the chickens, the pigs,
Well, sorry to interrupt, but do you want to elaborate on rotational grazing?
yeah,
Because
that's
you
what.
haven't really talked about, oh,
Yeah.
okay, sorry.
So
Yeah.
the cow, we'll just go with the cows. They get moved every day, just like the chickens. Um, we use what's called polywire. Um, it's a it's a braided electrified fence. You can electrify it, and the cows move every single day to a new paddock. So I may have a a fenced off pasture that's 7 acres. But within that 7 acres, I can break it down into half-acre paddocks, 1 acre paddocks, depending on the time of year, depending on how much grass is growing, depending on how much rain we've had. There's so many different things, but I can adapt each paddock to exactly how much I want to give the cows. And so by moving them across all the fields, they may graze in one area one day, and then they may not come back to that area for 2 months. And in that 2 months, like we talked about the rain, there's dung beetles, there's birds. Sometimes the chickens will come through. Their feces, their urine, all that gets incorporated down into the ground. Uh, Most of the grass that's there, especially this time of year, they're not even eating. They trample a lot of it. And so that protects the ground, it covers any bare dirt. And so all of that gets broken down into the soil, and it's food for everything in the soil, because there's bacteria, there's worms, like the dung beetles, there's fungi, all in the soil, and they're all working together to incorporate all the nutrients that are being left behind. And so you come back 2 months later, and the pasture is stronger for it. You've added fertilizer, you gave it rest. So the rest is the main thing that we're shooting for here, is to give each section of pasture a lot of rest so that it can recover. So the basis of this is thinking about how the buffalo used to built all the topsoils across the middle of North America. There's herds of millions and millions of buffalo. Um, you know, the people who came here first, they said they would ride up on a ridge and there would be buffalo, coming early in the morning, and the herd would still be passing late in the day, and it was so
Mhm.
far you couldn't see the edge of it. Think about how many animals that is, and they're all passing through, and they're all leaving their feces and their urine, and they're trampling all the grass, but then they don't come back for a year or 2 years to that area. And so then we got, feet's worth of topsoil that was built over all this time. And so that's kind of what we're doing on a much smaller scale. And luckily in Western Kentucky, we have a lot of humidity, and so things can be sped along. Feces will break down faster, grass and things like that will break down a lot faster. But basically, we're building organic matter in the soil. Uh, Hopefully, we're building topsoil, which takes a little bit longer, but definitely adding organic matter, adding nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and all these other micro minerals that need to go into the soil as well. Um, so that's when I think about, like, what do I need to be doing on the farm today, it's mainly how can I give the ground the most rest? How can I give the animals what they need, but still support the grass and the soil?
Yeah.
So that's my main question.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you on one thing,
Okay.
and that's the humidity. I've hated it always. I hate the humidity, but no, I'm sorry. That joking. Um, I guess my question then is: so you're feeding your? Do you have to supplement the cattle
No.
then at
Well, they
all?
get hay. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll feed hay um, in some winter months. I'll feed hay in months like October, November. So here in Kentucky, we have Kentucky 31 fescue, and it's the main grass that grows in pastures. Um, it's got its good things and its bad things. It can stand up to drought. It's very grazing tolerant, but it also has a fungus that lives inside of it, a lot in the seed heads. Um, and I just went blank, but this fungus can cause vasoconstriction in animals. So it's a really big deal for horses because it can cause hoof problems in horses. It can do the same thing in cows, cause hoof problems. But this Kentucky 31 fescue is a cool season grass. It grows really well um, April, May, June. It's growing really well. When the hot weather hits, it takes a slump. And then in the fall, again, it starts growing again, October, November, early December. So I will graze in the spring. I'll graze warm season grasses through the summer, whatever's growing. And then in the fall, sometimes I will feed a little bit of hay while that cool season fescue grows again. I can feed a little bit of hay, let all that grass stockpile in my pastures, and then I'll start grazing my cows again in December, and they can graze in January. There'll be snow on the ground, but there's green grass underneath that snow. That fescue will stay green all winter long. And so, when the cows really need better nutrition, I've still got green grass to feed them. So I may run out in February, and then I'll feed a little bit of hay again to get me back to spring,
Yeah.
things like that.
I can see
But
the yeah.
never, I don't. We don't ever feed them the cows any grain, no corn,
Well,
no soybean. They're grass only.
They aren't designed to eat that.
yeah,
That's not what their stomachs are designed to
designed
do.
for.
Um, so that's just not how we do it.
Yeah, I could see again going back to letting the ground rest.
Yeah.
You're saying that right there that you're going to give them some hay so that the ground rest, and then nature's refrigerator keeps it green. I guess would be probably right.
Well,
The
it's just
grass
yeah, it's
being,
just
it's
the
going
way
to,
fescue is.
yeah,
You know, you can drive around in the winter months and you look at people's yards. The people that have green grass in the
that's
middle
going
of
to be
January, that's probably fescue.
gotcha.
And then the people with yellow grass, that's probably Bermuda or some warm season grass. So
Yeah.
there's a place for everything.
So a little different subject. When you go to process these animals, you process them. Now, I'm assuming not the chickens because you said you loaded those.
So we take
So,
everything we sell has to be USDA processed.
yeah,
So we're really lucky where we are with the chicken. There is a processor that's about an hour and 15 minutes away from us. I don't know the exact number, but I think there's less than 10 small poultry processors in the whole United States. The next closest one to us is 5 hours away. So if we didn't have this one, I would have to go. There's one in East Tennessee that I went to one time.
yeah.
I'm glad we have the one that we do.
Mm.
So they're USDA processed, which just means that there's a USDA inspector there and they can look at the meat as it goes through. The beef is USDA processed because if you're going to sell a steak or I'm going to sell you a pound of ground beef, it has to be inspected by a USDA processor. I could sell you a half of a cow or a whole cow, and I could take it anywhere I wanted, just custom processing, and you could get it however you wanted. But for us to sell one person a steak, it has to have that USDA stamp on it. So pork, chicken, beef, it's all processed at a USDA facility. But they're
That's
small, these are small processors,
right.
which is a whole nother issue because there's a lot of problems,
There's
because
not
they're
enough.
trying to run a business too. There's not enough people bringing in. So most of them, they do deer, in the
Yeah.
fall. And so they're swamped in the fall, but then April rolls around and, they're trying to scrounge up who's got some cows they want to get processed. So we're lucky to have the people that we do, but sometimes that can be kind of tough as well.
Yeah, you just threw up another question in my mind that because I just heard this, and I'm going to get off point again, but the deer processing, and I should have done a little more research on it, but I didn't think of it until you said it. There's some type of there's some type of disease that the deer are passing between each
Chronic
other,
wasting disease.
and isn't it a concern that that's going to possibly jump from one to another? Or
From species to species.
yeah, who knows?
I don't know. Yeah,
You just have to wait and see.
I'd be guessing, but
Yeah, I wondered about that a little bit, but
We're
yeah,
grateful that our animals generally have a stronger immune system just with the
yeah,
sun
sure,
and movement
the
and
space that you give them,
yeah. The
clean
sun and
water, sunshine.
the sunshine, there's a lot the vitamin D. I think we've seen a deficit of that after COVID because few people stopped going out
Yeah,
as much and being, and you have seen a lot of people becoming vitamin D deficient. So I'm sure that affects the animals as well. So I guess your FDA background kind of helped to make sure you kind of understood how that worked going into it, right?
the processing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I worked for the USDA and I would go to large hog processing plants and I basically would take samples and we tested for pseudorabies because there had been a large pseudorabies outbreak. I don't even know when it was, early 2000s or something. So they had built this program up that, every now and then you would take a sample from a hog and then that we would send it off to a lab and it would be tested and things like that. Um, so that gave me definitely a peek behind the curtain of what goes on.
so we're back at it. And I was just telling you guys how many questions I have and so many things that I want to go over. Um, and we talked about Grandin, I think's her
Temple
name.
Grandin,
oh
yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and then my daughter, she got me to involved with that, and then there's a certain couple things that are real important to me for my children to experience, and that's become one of them. And after she allowed me to experience that, the movie, and then we bought the books and things like that. So I would like to talk about that. And there's something kind of odd about that story to me as well. Um, but then we also talked about before we got back going was the question that I had was there was a group or again a podcast. I'm sure it was Rogan or one of those guys, and he was talking about how so the grades of beef. As
Hmm.
far as I'm from restaurants. You got select, choice, and prime, and then I guess you got aged prime, and
Yeah.
there's multiples, but those are your main three.
Mhm.
And so those things make a big difference in the way the meat tastes. But to get to the really high level steak, he said those are really unhealthy
Oh yeah.
cows to
Well,
be able to
So
get that much fat
a
content
lot
in
of
them.
people don't realize what the grade means.
Yeah,
It's
it's more
fat.
fat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
the fattier.
Fat
So
is flavor. So
our
Yeah,
cows only eat grass.
yeah,
They are very lean.
right.
Um, we got graded once. What did we get? What's the lowest
um,
one? Choice?
we didn't get the lowest.
Yeah, we did. Oh, I thought it
Which
went.
lowest would be choice.
Choice, I
I
guess.
think.
Well, choice
No,
is
there's a lower than
basically
that.
what choice is going to be what you're going to find most for most stores.
Well, we thought it was funny because the processor even called us and she's like, "We've never seen a grass finished cow get graded before."
Oh, really?
And so we all kind of laughed about it because,
Yeah,
we don't care. And it's and a lot of people just don't know. And I respect that and I appreciate that they call with questions.
yeah.
People will call me and say, "What is the grade of your beef?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure you understand like
How this works? Yeah.
what we're doing. We're very different than a lot of farms and how we're different is we're not going to have a grade. I mean, we did once, but that was a joke and it was kind of funny.
I
But
think maybe you could even say that that your style of farming is a grade to itself. So you would have select, choice, prime, blah blah blah, or you have family farmed,
grass finished.
grass
Yeah.
fed, regenerative
And we
farm
get so it's
meat.
all that grade comes off of what you would call the marbling, so the fat
Yeah,
content inside of the muscle. Um, and we get some marbling, but ours is going to fluctuate. A cow that we process in June is going to be a lot different than a cow that we would process in January or something. And that's a lot of people don't understand. Like, if you're buying something from a small producer, every tomato is not going to look the same. Every steak isn't going to be exactly the same, and it's going to fluctuate, from season to season. Um, but the reason they can get those cows to that prime is because they limit their mobility and they feed them nothing but corn and soy. It'd be like you sitting on your couch all day and eating nothing but potato chips and
all right.
drinking.
All right, let's not get personal here. Getting a little too close to home here.
So,
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
I follow you.
if how would you feel if you did that for 6 months? You're not going to feel very good. And
Right.
then so those cows, they're not meant to live long lives. Our
Yeah.
cows, I might get one to a finishing weight that I could take, but he's going to be okay staying out on pasture for a couple more months because he's eating grass. And so if we don't need to process him right away, it's not a big deal. He can stay and eat a little bit longer. And one thing my mentor Kobe always tells me is beef in the United States typically, and you have to check my numbers on this, 18 months, I would say, is when they would like to slaughter a cow from a feedlot. My cow's maybe 3 years or older. My mentor Toby tells me, the French won't even consider eating cow that's not at least 3 years because the flavor hasn't developed yet. You get more flavor, and there's just a lot more complexity. If you eat wild game, if you hunt deer, like that tastes different.
Sure.
It's got a whole different flavor profile than if the animal ate nothing but one thing for its whole diet.
Yeah.
So when you eat diverse food, the meat is going to taste different. And so a lot of people are scared of grass finished beef because they've heard like it tastes weird or it's a little bit tougher or something like that. But, you know, Kate was kind of like that when we first started. So I made her some hamburger or something. And, we haven't looked back. That's all we eat now is grass finished beef. And it's,
Well, in the nutrient density in each bite. So you can take a bite of hamburger that's conventional and a bite of hamburger that is regenerative, grass finished, organic practice, which is what we are. And the vitamins and minerals that you're going to get in that bite, because there were vitamins and minerals and fungi and living organisms in the soil, to the grass, to the cow, you're going to get all the benefits of, you can explain that better,
Well,
but
you are what you eat, and so our
Sure.
grasses or our cows, they eat diverse pastures and off of healthy soils, and so you get those nutrients passed on to you.
Well, I think that well, a good example for me was my wife. She was doing some cake decorating, and there will always be a little something off. And I said, that's what they want. That we don't want. And then I think you see that in the AI coming in, everything is perfect, and we don't want perfect. A lot of
No,
times, we want to say, this person made this for me.
yeah,
The things that I'm not a materialistic person at all. Everything I always tell people, I got a drawer beside my bed. That's the only things I really care about, and I could leave everything else behind. And I've done it before, but those things that I really care about come from somebody.
yeah,
They mean that, and that's what I think that maybe we gotten away from. There was this, during the 40s and 50s, you had a big push for the sugar industries and changing of how the food pyramid. That
hmm,
I don't know that that's really something that would be considered healthy. Um, and because of that, we've trained ourselves not only with what your guys are talking about, but anything. I mean, yeah, this particular ho ho or little Debbie, like what you were talking about, it's taste. Well, it's designed to do that. It's
yeah,
designed to make you want more of them, and because of that, we kind of got away from that nutrients. And that was the thing I was going to talk to you about on the not just with the cattle, but in the garden. Those what I was ta- what I from what I've heard, you got pasture or not pasture land, but farmland that has been so overly used, not given the time to rest, not given the time to regenerate, that the nutrients coming out of those vegetables and those grains are deficient
they're
compared.
void of life.
Yeah. And here's something that I want to put out there too, because this was something I think you guys was important to you guys, was you're not out here trying to go, this particular farm or this particular farm is good or bad. You're just saying what we're doing is going this direction.
Mhm.
And we all agreed that there's nothing we can do immediately to make those changes right away. There's just the population is out, so but there are ways that we can start maybe redirecting, just like they did. Things were done when my grandfather, the one I was talking about, they were done pretty similar to what you guys are doing right now,
yeah.
back
Well,
then. And then somebody bumped the arrow a little bit and redirected it, and they were successful with that. That's why
Hmm.
we have. So I think what we're saying is maybe we need to bump that arrow back the other direction and start moving.
I think stuff like this, access to information, putting information out there for people. There's a ton of things on YouTube. The Carbon Cowboys have done a lot of series on regenerative farming. Peter Bick has done a lot. The Kiss the Ground and all of that has been really cool to just make these conversations more common and more mainstream so that people can choose. When people are unaware that this is here, they're unaware that there's farmers like us in their community, then there's they don't realize maybe how close it is to them, or they don't realize that you can even find this type of farming. There's a lot of websites that will help you find a farmer. APA, which is something that we're part of, the
American
American,
Pasture Poultry Producers Association.
yep. If you look on their website, you can find a farmer near you. And we're here. We're available for the people that want to find us.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to be here today just to educate maybe a few more people about, what's in their community and that this style exists, even
Yeah.
if they're interested in being a farmer. We open our doors often to people who want to know more about this way because a lot of them don't have access to resources to help them along. We would not be here where we are without mentorship. Toby and Debbie Dolworth at Dogwood Farms have been huge mentors to us. The first time that we had a cow calve early, and it was in February, and it was first time mom, and we lost the calf. We sent a picture to Toby. He sent a picture immediately, and Toby said that calf's not going to make it. It's super premature.
Right.
It's the middle of the winter. Like you're not going to make it. And I called Debbie and I said, I don't want to do this. I didn't sign up for this.
Mm,
You know,
yeah.
I
Tough
I
spot.
don't I'm not here for this. And, they came out the next day and she said, "Don't quit. Everybody has a bad day. Do not quit." And we're just really grateful for the mentorship that they've given us, um, to not quit.
Yeah.
So
So you guys use that word a lot, mentor, and I'm glad to
we've got a lot
hear.
of them.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're kind of wanting to pass that along. I got a really quick story about a sponsor that we had. They own a store, but he does fish farming.
Mm-hmm.
And his wife, I've never met him, but his wife told me the whole story. When he first started, he was a young man, and his family had a lot of fish farms, and then they got sold off. So when he was 20, 18, 19, 20, he decided he wanted to get back into it. So he had started buying that property back. And there was a fisherman, and the only way you really know how to do that type of fishing is somebody that I show you. He never did
Yeah.
it, and he would show up every morning at 5:30 trying to get. And so the guy would start launching his boat in different locations to get away from him. So one day he seen this farmer's wife at a yard sale. He said, "What do I got to do to get Tom? I guess it was Tom to take me out fishing." And he said, "I tell you what, you show up tomorrow morning 5:30 at my house for breakfast, and you'll go fishing." So he shows up, and he's sitting at the man's table. He comes walking out. He said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And they became like grandfather and I mean, he
Yeah.
was at the bedside when he passed,
Mm.
so that's how close they got. And then he's doing the same thing. He's like trying to, you know, I think sometimes we get stuck in the this is my thing and I don't want everybody to know about it, but yet at the same time this is so important that
Oh yeah.
everyone needs to know about it.
Yeah.
There's
So
a Amish guy that has mentored us on hogs. I don't know if we're supposed to say his name or not because he's Amish, but
we can edit if we need to.
I don't know. But Justin wrote him Justin, he's not going to hear it. That's true.
Yeah, right. We'll just
um,
call him Abel.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Joseph.
Yeah.
Joseph.
Okay.
Joseph. Um, we communicated with him via letter, and he invited Justin and I out to his farm, and we walked his hog forest for 4 hours one day. And he told us everything he did right, everything he did wrong, everything we need to watch out for. And we've stayed in communication with him, and we're really grateful that before we ever got into hogs, he really walked us through the woods and said, "Don't do what I did over here.
Yeah.
Definitely do what I did over here." Um, he was,
I
you
would
know,
much rather someone tell me what not to
Oh
do
yeah.
because I've been there. I've done the not to dos, and yeah, you learn faster there. I know.
he's great. And then there was another guy who did uh we never remember his name.
Yeah.
He did South Pole cattle out near Katie's, and he had chickens. And so he opened his doors, welcomed us in. We walked his whole farm, learned all about his chicken operation before we started chickens. It's a small community, especially in Western Kentucky,
Yeah.
and we've never met anybody that wasn't helpful. And we've tried to open our doors to anybody that wants to know more about it. We had a field day with the University of Kentucky a couple years ago on our farm, and people came from surrounding states just because it's hard to find a farm like ours that um, is drivable.
Yeah.
And we're happy to talk to anybody about it. And
Yeah, I hope that things are trying to make a shift because I do believe that boomer generation, not to anything negative about it, but they, the previous ones had a lot more farm, and then you've seen that family farm start to distribute, and people went to work into, factories and things like that, different avenues. But I think we're starting to see kind of a coming back. When I was a kid, farming wasn't cool.
Yeah.
It was nothing.
Yeah.
And I grew up on a farm, so and I can remember my ag teacher telling me, going, you do realize that there's nothing in your life that a farmer isn't involved in. Everything you have in your life, somehow, a farmer is most likely. Even if somebody's building something for you, they have to eat. you know.
Mhm.
So I do think that's becoming, and what you guys are doing is, I don't want it to make it sound, but it is more of a trendy style of doing this. It's a way of looking at things outside that conventional box that we've all been put in, and
Well,
but go ahead.
I think if you're a young person and you have any interest in farming at all, and you don't live in a farming family, this is the only way you could do it. Because
Right.
in order to make money conventionally farming, you would need hundreds or if
If
not
not
thousands of
thousand.
acres. huge machinery that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's just no entry point for a young person that's not in an agricultural family to get into farming.
Right.
The way we do it, you can build you a couple tractors. Um, you don't even need to own land. You just find someone with a couple of acres that, maybe they cut hay off of it, maybe they don't, maybe it's just sitting around and it's an absentee landowner. Put your chicken tractors out there, and you can move them. If they tell you get off your land, you take your chicken tractors to the next farm down the road. You can do the same thing with pigs. You could do the same thing with cows. You build a couple of fences. So it's just, farming can be so expensive. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to be a row crop farmer now, I mean, I don't even know how you could go about getting into that. The bank would probably laugh you off because I mean, that would be an astronomical loan to get started. So, uh, but yeah, so one of the benefits that we had when we started this was like we didn't need a lot of capital to start to buy the equipment that we needed.
We had no capital or equipment.
Yeah,
We had
we had
land,
land, but
and then Toby and Debbie, Greg Judy, right?
yeah,
Greg Judy wrote a book called No Risk Ranching, and it's how to get started without capital.
Right.
And we got started by contract grazing. So Toby and Debbie would put cattle on our property. Justin would manage them. And the first year, we got paid a price per day per animal we had.
Yeah.
And then they left, and that was fine for the first year. And then the second year, um, we did something similar, except they were heifers. So these were first time moms for cattle. And we got a share of the calf crop. So we still didn't have a tractor. We still didn't have any equipment because we couldn't afford it. But we used the money that we got from the first year to reinvest in some more polywire and step in posts until we were able to get more and get more.
So we were talking about, do you see, do you guys have any involvement with, like, now it seemed like you said you homeschool your children.
hmm
Yeah. I've done that, and that can be challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other, have you, like the schools, I know there's ag departments in there. Has anybody like that reached out to you yet, or maybe talking to you about giving? Go ahead.
Not really. There was a program this year where they were going to try to get ag students to come out to local farms, and we had signed up and said, bring them on out, and then nothing ever came of it. So I don't know if they just didn't.
It fizzled out a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that program, but um, no, like she said, University of Kentucky has a research center in Princeton. I think they have three in the state, and the one in Princeton it's a huge research center, and the professors and doctors out there have really been helpful to us. If we have an issue, they'll come out, answer our questions. They set up that field day. So, they're running trials on, different types of corn, and, they do all the conventional ag things out there, but um, they've definitely helped us, and they haven't,
Especially
yeah,
Dr. Chris Toich. I mean, he's done a lot. He's a forage specialist. So and he lives down the road from us. So, um,
so they've been supportive of
yeah.
Sounds like
everything
you
that we're
guys
doing.
are in the right spot.
Yeah,
You, with your chicken farm, only with the processor being less than an hour and a half
yeah.
away, and then a mentor you talked about in the center. And I want to make sure I get his name right. What was his name
Toby
again?
Dolworth,
Toby
Toby and
Dolworth.
Debbie Dolworth. Yep.
Yeah, being a Ballard County, I would be in trouble if I got it
Yeah.
wrong. So we'd like to probably put them on and list them as part of
Oh,
the
Sure. Yeah.
program. So it sounds like you got a kind of a hot spot here
Yeah,
where you're
and
at.
our chicken and pork, they get fed a organic grain. So, they're on pasture and they're eating all those things, but they need supplemental because, that's the way they were designed to eat.
Right.
So another thing we're really lucky about is an hour and a half away is a all organic feed mill that we can go to, and I can get soy-free grain if I want. So I feed my hogs a soy-free grain this year. But it is a large feed mill, but it's all organic feed, and so
Yeah.
we're not certified organic ourselves. We don't do anything that would keep us from being organic, but our meat can't. It's not processed by an organic processor. And so we could do everything right. We could be certified organic and feed organic and do all the right things. But since it's not processed organically, we can't put that little sticker on there. So it's kind of like why do all this paperwork? So we just tell people, come on out. But it's nice that we can still do everything that we want and feed organically to our animals. Um, and so that's another thing. It's hour and a half away, which, we're really lucky to have that too.
Their name.
Oh yeah, Coffee Kentucky Organic Farm and Feed is the name.
Okay.
So
I'll,
they're
I'll
really
list that
good.
on there too.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so now it's another subject that I wanted to talk about. We talked a little bit about Temple Grandin,
Hmm.
and she was an autistic. She was very high on the autistic scale, and to the point where she was almost to the point of not being verbal. Um, but she had some kind of connection with animals, and then she came up with a revolutionary way of channeling the animals so that they were less stressed put on them, less.
Yeah.
I think they had a lot of issues with during that process of animals actually dying, and before they could even get them to the process. So, um, but the weird thing about that is we're seeing such an uptick, and this is just something on my end, an uptick in autism, and a lot of people are saying it's because of the foods we're putting in our children's bodies at a young age, and everyone from however you choose to believe, politically, you got everyone from Robert Kennedy Jr., who has been a huge advocate in this. And if you listen to his story, and some of it you may agree with or not, but had nothing to do with with agriculture or food or autism or anything. He was a waterway lawyer.
Hmm.
He litigated against the waterways being polluted. And then he was approached by so many mothers who said, "There's something going on." And so that's when he started taking a look at that. Nutrition wise, whether it's a deficiency in nutrition or whether we're putting just stuff that's not food in our bodies. How do you guys approach that? Is that something that's on your mind? Is it part of what you're doing? That's kind of a question I had.
Um, so, I just, we try to focus on what would be the healthiest thing for the soil and the animals. And so, yeah, we try not to put anything on any plants. So we don't spray Roundup. I don't fertilize. Um, we don't use any insecticides on the animals,
On the
um,
farm.
or on the farm. So, you know, whether or not it's because I think that's going to cause autism or anything else, I just, I know that it's not, I mean, it's not nature. Nature was built to work with itself. It is um, a
Self-healing.
yeah, it's a self-healing thing. So you don't have to come in and control it. You don't have to try to manipulate it, or take it over or kill one thing because it's bad. So I just we don't do that because I think it's going to cause autism right now. I just know that it's going to degrade the soil and the nutrients aren't going to be there. So I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
No, I mean, I think just personally, I think food, the food we eat today isn't made of the same things it was 50 years ago. And as much as we can do to get back to growing vegetables in our own garden, growing meat in our own field, um, trying to be very mindful of I'll say carbohydrates because we don't have any of that we produce. Um, trying to be very mindful of what was in that, what label is on there, what was the actual process to produce this product or whatever. Um, it's just I think when maybe we think of certain breads like 50 years ago, what was in bread is not the same as what is in bread today. Um, and I think that's where some people get a little tripped up because they think, well, my grandparents ate it, but it might not be the same thing or the same ingredient.
Now, I will throw out a podcast. You might be interested in
Mhm.
this. And it's kind of along the same lines. I was just listening to it today. It's Acres USA podcast, and they had a specialist on, and he was talking about all this litigation that's coming around. The Roundup has been going to trial already,
Yeah.
and paraquat uh, causing Parkinson's disease. So the Roundup causing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. There's billion-dollar settlements coming out.
Right.
Juries giving one person billions of dollars because of what it is. And he said that the lawsuits for this paraquat, which is a herbicide that causes Parkinson's disease, they're going to be coming up in the next 5 years, and they're going to be seeing millions and billions of dollars of lawsuits. So, people are starting to see, and the science is starting to prove that these something is happening.
Right.
These are definitely causing, and whether it's because it's off-label use or it's being used way more than it should, or it would have done it anyway, I don't know. But there's definitely, yeah, we definitely look at what we eat or what we do buy from the store, and that's always in the back of my head. Like, you know, I really wouldn't. I don't want to go too far and make anybody mad, but
No,
um, you know, th- these chemicals, they're doing something.
sure.
They're causing problems.
Well,
And they're causing problems in people, they're causing problems on the land, and then they're washing into the water, you know,
yeah, and
and
it
you
just
can find them everywhere. So,
continues to degrade.
yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that we would have to worry too much about upsetting anyone. I think anybody could see. I mean, if you just look at a tomato today, and you look at a tomato from your farm, I'm sure. I know from my wife's grandmother, it is completely a different
Oh, yeah.
thing. Yeah, I mean, the tomato that I would get from here has no flavor. It has very little color at all. It's almost to a point of a very pale pink, whereas the others are super red, rich, and full of seeds and everything. It's just completely different
Yeah.
thing there. So
It's
I
designed to travel across the country and
right,
designed to
and
sit in a grocery store and
sure,
all those things, not
and
designed
it's
to be
designed
nutritional.
the food to produce. And what was those numbers you found, Tristan? Yeah. So these are just the agriculture numbers. Let me see it. It's such a big number. I mean, you read it and
Oh, yeah, I'm
you're
sure.
like, this isn't real. So 59 pounds of beef and 100, yeah, that's just for the average person. 19.9 billion pounds of beef and 34.6 billion pounds of chicken consumed annually. That's 19.9 billion. Billion is a big number.
That's a big number.
So to be able to provide that right now, we can't make any immediate stop,
Right.
or somebody's going to go hungry. But we need to, like we talked, redirect that arrow so that we can start finding ways, and identifying the problem is part of that,
Yeah.
I think.
And there are big farmers that are changing the way they've done things because I don't know exactly what the number is. Maybe you could look this up. But what's the amount of acreage that's dedicated to corn and soybeans in the United States that does not go for human consumption?
Yeah,
You know, so
it's an enormous amount.
we're growing all this feed for these animals. Why can't we grow grass and graze them across the pastures? So Gabe Brown is one farmer. He's really interesting guy because he didn't come to farming with this mindset. He was a conventional farmer. I think he's in South Dakota or North Dakota, but he was a conventional farmer who had 3 years of crop loss, and basically the bank told him, we can't give you any more money. You're not making any money. So he had to come up with something else. He's changed his whole farming philosophy now. He is all regenerative. He's on a lot of podcasts. He's written books, so he's really interesting because he was this big conventional farmer, and he's changed his whole mindset. And one of his things he always says is, "I used to wake up every day thinking I'm going to kill something. There's going to a weed, I'm going to kill it. There's a bug, I'm going to kill it. There's a virus, I'm going to kill it." And now I wake up every day thinking about how can I get more life on my farm, because he knows if he can plant more diversity, if he can bring in bees, if he can bring in goats or sheep or cows or whatever, and just the diversity is what keeps it all going. If you try to do one thing in a field, if you're just trying to grow one type of grass or you're trying to grow one type of plant, if one mistake goes wrong, there goes your whole crop.
Right.
But if you've got diversity, then it's stronger. People always say we're stronger together because of all of our differences, and things like that. It's true, but it's also true in nature, and it's true in a pasture, and it's true on a farm. Um, so,
One thing I'm trying to learn more about, just because I think it's fascinating, is if you really study forage and you really study what's growing in the field will tell you what it's what it's
Missing.
what it's missing or what it's made up of.
Okay.
So this plant grows because it's deficient in,
It could be an acidic soil
yeah.
or
I see.
And so if we do soil testing and we read the results and interpret them and make changes and stuff like that. But it's really fascinating, this whole world, that you can just go out and read the forage that's there, read the weeds, read the grass, read what's growing, and it will tell you what it's deficient in or what it's has an
Suitable
abundance
for.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's just really fascinating because it's all right there.
Yeah.
Um, so I just think I want to learn more about that.
Yeah. Sort of like we have an ecosystem, and then we decide that we're going to man make that ecosystem with these chemicals and things like that, that we can kind of force nature to do what to
you
do what
can
we
try.
want. Yeah. Yeah.
You can try.
Um, So I think one of the things that I'm really concerned about is that nutrient deficiency that you're getting from these major large farms. But then also you said, what are we then turning around and putting out? When I saw the regenerative farm on Rogan, it showed the discharged water from one of the neighboring, mega farms, and then theirs, and it was night and day. I mean, it was like spring water and sewage to a
Hmm.
degree. Um, I can't imagine what that's putting in our environment when we're looking at the amount of, when we're talking billions of animals. So another thing that I wanted to go to though was you had, as far as devil's advocate here, you got people out here talking about climate change because of cattle. And then is it not true that, and then also you see, they're also pointing out the fact that we're killing however many million animals a day. But if I'm not mistaken, you're seeing on these large farms, and the only way without protein from cattle and animals would be these mega farms. I don't think you could get away with, I don't think you get around that right now, because you're going to have these chemicals. You're going to have to build enough farmland to feed the amount of people. And they're just saying how many animals are killed just because of that, because these large farms, the chemicals that they have to use, there's some areas they said that they will put this chemical on, and the farmers from, let's say, down south will not go in the fields for 3 days. They have to
Wow.
allow that to. So how many animals are we, killing because of that? Is that something you guys have heard, or you have anything on that?
Um, yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I it gets really frustrating when people talk about the cows are hurting, the ozone. It's not the cow's fault.
Yeah,
It's how the cow is being raised.
sure.
So the carbon drawdown that a regenerative farm can produce, and there's more and more science behind this, we are drawing carbon back into the soil with the the care that we give the soil, the care that we're using in the forages, or the grass. It's a carbon positive.
Positive. I'm glad you said that, because that was part of that conversation. They said the exact same thing. We're putting not as much carbon in it. We're putting more carbon back.
Yeah,
We're
and the methane that the cows release, if you could test that in a feedlot where they're standing on a concrete pad or gravel, and then you take those cows and you put them out on pasture, there is bacteria in the ground that breaks down methane. And there used to be, like I said earlier, millions of bison roaming this country, way more than there are cows right now. So the idea that, it's the animals' fault that we're causing global warming, that's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
The animals are part of the nature. Maybe we need to turn the mirror around and look at ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely agree with you there that the human factor that comes into play. Um, it's funny. I don't know why this came to my mind, but it was something I heard recently that the human animal is the only animal that has to pay to live. And that's the problem. Is we we have to, and then of course how we live. Um, so do you guys? How do you guys how do you guys sell your product? So is it because it's not? I'm guessing maybe in some groceries, or do you do a lot of shipping, or how's that work?
Sure. So one thing that we're, it's my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, one thing that we're really proud of is what we source for the farm. So either the processors that we use, the organic feed that we get for the chickens and the hogs, the processing, all of it is from Western Kentucky. And then everything we sell is in Western Kentucky. So we partner with Magny Legacy Ridge Farm. She's been around since around 2014. She's an organic vegetable farmer, and she does deliveries every Thursday. So from Madisonville to Murray, and you can go online to her site and order our products, her products, and several other local farms. And then it's delivered Madisonville to Murray on Thursday afternoons. She's been a great partner to us. We have the same philosophies, same mindsets. So it's really nice to have somebody
Yeah.
who shares those thoughts. She's in Lyon County. So that is how we do most of our marketing.
Okay, let me
And
ask you before you move on.
sure.
So when you say you can go to their website, and if you would please send that to
Sure.
Tristan
Yeah.
so we can get that on there. You can go to their website and order, and she delivers. Now, I can't imagine she's delivering to individuals. This
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Straight
is
to your
It's
door.
$5. It's a minimum $20 to order. Like you have to spend $20, and then it's a $5 delivery fee. Um,
so. What happens when our podcast just goes crazy,
we
and the next
will.
thing you know, she's got like orders coming from
That'd be
Be
everywhere?
great.
great.
Yeah,
That'd
I
be
hope
great.
that
There's a
happens.
you
But
you can
we
get
know
on
there's
there.
a supply and demand there,
Yeah.
though.
No, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, you can take a look, and it tells you there's 6 bunches of carrots left to order, and so she
Okay.
she can't oversell herself.
Gotcha.
And we limit, we know exactly how much chicken breast we have, so we'll limit how much is on the market. But when we got started with her, it was really just her and us. And I think in the last 2 years, she's added. There's a grain producer that does um, old world wheat, and it's organic. And it's grown in Livingston County, and he does wheat and cornmeal. And there's another farm that's doing potatoes and shallots. There's another farm that does
Lamb.
lamb, yeah, all cuts of lamb. There's another farm that does uh, s- rosemary and dill and these salts and things. So, like, literally, not literally, I won't say literally, you could almost go on there and do all your grocery shopping for the week, local, whole foods, nutritious foods. You can't get dairy and cheese, but that's about, if you like to cook and you like
Yeah.
to make your own meals, and if you shop on the outside of the grocery store. I don't know if you've ever heard that term.
Yeah.
And don't go in those middle aisles where all the
Right.
processed
Right.
foods are. But if you
Process.
like to shop on the outside aisle of the grocery store, then you can pretty much do all your shopping on there.
Yeah, that's great. I'm definitely looking at that. I'm in Ballard, so I hope that maybe we can.
They'll make it. Well,
If
they
not,
they do a delivery point to the olive oil company here in Paducah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
if you lived outside the area but you worked in Paducah, you could have your stuff dropped off there, and you just pick it up on Thursday
Awesome.
on your way home.
That's something I want to check into. I own a couple different restaurants, and I'm a big I for especially till these two here left, we would have dinner at the table at least 3 to 4 times a week, and I would make a. Hate processed boxed foods, like you said, the center of the aisle. I wanted everything fresh. I wanted to build it, and my two oldest are now starting to pick up on that. When you said that if you like to cook, and Tristan perked up. He's always been a foodie. You might could tell that if you look at him close, but he just recently really stuck into cooking, and my daughter's the same way. So um, yeah, I think we got to get the word out to the younger
Yeah.
generations that, hey, and it seems like they're more open to it. And it's weird because you go back. I think that my grandfather would agree with everything you guys have said as far as, where the nutrients is, especially if he was in today's world and seeing where we're at. But again, I think that next generation and that generation tends to get a lot of flack, and they went through a lot of crap through COVID and all that. But I think they're more open to listening to what you guys are trying to put out there. And I know I am because I see, like we talk about the tomatoes and the meats. I personally, I don't like Kobe beef or anything like highly. I don't mind age, but sometimes it gets to a point where there's no texture.
Hmm.
It's like you're eating spam,
Yeah.
and that's so for me. That's one reason I wanted to have you guys on. So you distribute through primarily this one farm, and she handles the website. You guys have your own websites
We do
or
have our own website, yeah. Um, you can't, like, we can't take credit card or sell through the website, and we don't have a method of delivery. So,
okay. So it'd be
um,
just
But
it's
telling people where to
people,
go.
yeah, but people are welcome to come to the farm. We have a lot of customers that just show up to the farm, and they'll load up for the month or whatever it is. And if people are interested, we can send them a price list, and some people will send us their order through email, and then they'll just come by the farm and pick it up whenever they're ready.
So does that price list change like market
Uh,
value? I mean, like,
we try not to change it a lot, but
usually we change it around every spring.
yeah.
So
yeah,
in the spring, because that's when our costs go up. So one thing about our farm is since everything is pastured, we're very weather dependent. So most of our animals that we're harvesting for pork and chicken is in the spring and the summer. Um, so going into the spring is when we start to look at our fuel cost, our feed cost, our electricity costs, um, everything like that, and then we judge it against so our costs, and then we look at the USDA average sheets. They put out average cost of um, the type of products that we produce, and so then we set our prices kind of based on that.
So now is all the processing done outside of the farm
Yeah,
and
it
you'll
has.
send it out and it comes in. So give me an example of what I could buy from now. It seems like the other what was the name of the other farm?
Magny Legacy Ridge Farm.
Magny Legacy Ridge
Yeah,
Farms, and that's out of
Eddyville.
Eddyville.
Yep.
Okay, well, Tristan's going to be on board because he lives in Edible.
There you
Or,
go.
right? No, no, but his mom lives in Edible, and so does my daughter. But give me an example of what I could buy from you in, say, I'm ready to buy some beef, some pork, some chicken, and vegetables. Can I buy all that from you directly, or is that primarily what you guys do?
Yeah.
We just do the meat.
Okay, just the
So the
meat.
online market, you can do the vegetables,
Right.
and then all the other stuff like grains and lamb and
And
stuff.
those are all still regenerative type farms.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Organic
So
practice, since we don't have our green sticker.
yeah. So you guys got several cattle, but I'm sure there's a limit. So say I have a big party and I want 200 ribeyes. You're not going to be able to pull that off,
No.
right? Okay. So there's going to be a what we
Yeah.
can and can't do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't typically supply restaurants. Our product is too inconsistent,
Mhm.
um, and our our inventory ebbs and flows. So we can't we can't support that. We can support a family of five, like us, for example, that wants to have
A
Taco
variety.
Tuesday, a roast on Wednesday, grill some chicken, you know, Thursday.
Hmm.
Friday night they want a nice steak dinner, so they're
Sure.
going to get some fillets and some, ribeyes and bratwurst for the kids or burgers for the kids or something like that. Those are the cuts that we have.
Yeah. Do you do like pork sausages and things like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah. We
and
do
uh,
breakfast sausage,
Italian sausage?
Italian sausage,
I'm just asking. Now I'm getting a
bratwurst,
little
andouille
personal because
sausage.
those are the things that I use.
Yeah. Pork chops, ham
Yeah.
steaks, picnic roast, Boston butts.
And we have some customers that are very specific. We had one lady call and she said, "I want boneless, skinless chicken thighs." And we said, "Okay,
I can see
well,
that.
if we're going to order them just for you, say you want 20, we need a guarantee that you're going to buy the 20 because it's a lot more expensive. Every time the processor touches the product, it's more expensive. That's
Right.
why a chicken breast is the most expensive because there's no bones."
Yeah.
Um, and she was like, "Yep." And we said, "Okay, we're going to go to the processor this day." And she said, "Great." And we were able to get her the exact cut she wanted because if she guaranteed that she was going to buy it, I
Yeah.
think she put a deposit down or something. I can't remember. But that's fine with us. Like,
Sure.
I don't care if you're going to pay the upcharge from the processor.
So give me an estimate of what you would say an average or family orders from you. And do they order you weekly, monthly?
There's some that will do every week. So on Magny Legacy Ridge, we've got a couple of customers that every single week they'll order, a couple of chicken breasts, um, maybe some minute steaks and pork chops,
Yeah.
you know. And then we've got some other customers that like to make their own bone broth. So they'll come once a month and load up on chicken soup bones. Um, and, it really depends. It's kind of, everybody's a little bit different. And if you're flexible, that's the other thing about small farms. If you go to your farmer, they're not going to have strawberries in January, you
Right.
know? They may not have your ribeyes right now, but they might have some New York strips, or they might have something else. So it helps to be flexible as a consumer, and tell them what you're looking for. If, like she said, if somebody came to us and said, I need this much and this is when I need it by, well, we could probably help you out. If you wanted all the ribeyes from the next beef we're taking to processing, we could probably help you out with that.
We have one customer who his wife has a iron deficiency
Yeah.
and she doesn't really like beef, but she's supposed to eat beef because she has an iron
She has
deficiency.
Right.
issues with lots of fat, and so
Yeah.
she can't digest a
So
lot of fat.
this guy has bought every sirloin tip roast we have had for like 3 years. He will meet Justin as he's leaving the processor to buy them from the cooler before he even gets home because he wants every sirloin tip roast. And so we've never even really put it on our price list because we have
You
one
never
customer that
gets them all.
takes them all every time.
Are you guys so the again? I'm sorry, but the farm that you sell through
Magni Legacy. Yeah.
Magni. I'm just going to call it
Yeah,
Magni.
that's fine.
Okay,
Magni.
Magni.
That's what we call it.
And are you guys the only beef and chicken
Yes.
Yeah.
that provide for them?
Yeah.
Okay.
They
There's a
do.
lamb guy, but
Yeah, they raise their own eggs. They actually have two farms now that do eggs. I forgot to mention you could get your eggs from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as beef, chicken, pork, we do that. Yep.
So is this all fresh,
it's
or is it
frozen.
Meat is
frozen?
All
frozen.
frozen.
Yeah.
All frozen. Okay. And so I could go ahead and buy like a month at a time if I wanted to do
Hmm.
that.
We had somebody the other day bought a box of ground beef.
A box,
Yeah,
A
30 pounds of
box.
ground beef.
30
Yeah.
pounds. Yeah, I can see that. You could break that up pretty quick. Okay, so and so you're saying that you can get just about anything processed, like Italian sausage and I heard you say
Andouille
andouille.
sausage. Yeah.
Yeah,
We do bratwurst. Um, we used to sell whole animals, whole beef. We've kind of stopped doing that. We do still sell whole hogs. So, a lot of people,
yeah,
they may want just pork chops and breakfast sausage. Well, they can
right.
get that done. So they can buy a half a hog, or they can buy a whole hog and split it up with someone. Um, so that's nice that we can go to the processor and say, "Hey, I'm selling um, this hog to this person, and this is exactly what they want out of it." And then
Yeah,
they get exactly what they want. They get all,
2 inch pork chops or
yeah,
yeah,
boneless pork chops or pork tenderloin or when you sell it the way we sell our hogs, you can get it cut however you want. We actually do have several left, and they're going in 2 weeks if anybody
okay,
wants a hog.
yeah.
Um,
I think you're going to get some. I think this is going to be a really big commercial for you, but but mainly the thing that I think this is the education factor, and that's why I wanted to do the podcast because I saw your article. Great friend of mine, she was on the podcast. Alexa, we'll give her a shout out because she did that article. But there's only so much you can do in an article.
yeah,
We can sit down for 2.5 hours and get a lot more information
yeah,
out there. And I really think that maybe we should maybe hit back on this again too coming up because we'll let it circle a little bit, and then maybe if you guys are on board, and we might come out there
yeah. That'd be
Yeah.
to
great.
the farm so that we could get kind of a better look at it because we're limited on time,
Sure.
of course. Um, but I wanted to tell a really quick story. I teach martial arts, and a lot of my podcast is about fighters and fighting. I can remember when he was just a little kid, and I was teaching a taekwondo class, and I had a farmer come to me and said he had two kids he wanted to get in there, and he says, "I got a how much would a half a cow get me?" So when you're teaching taekwondo or core martial arts in a small area, and that was some of the best beef I ever had.
Yeah.
I would do it again for sure. So, do you guys do a lot of trade? Is that not that you're going to be teaching? I don't know,
Mm,
like vegetables. Like, hey,
I guess we haven't.
not
no,
I
really,
don't
not
know that
yet.
we wouldn't be. I mean, we'll talk.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was thinking more along the Magnia or what I can't.
Magni Legacy Original.
Yeah,
No, we
yeah.
buy from her, and
She buys
she'll
She
from
buys
probably
from.
us.
So
buy
in a
us.
way, you
It's
do
easy.
trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do trade. It's
No.
just not that way.
Yeah.
So now you say she delivers once a week.
Every
Mm-hmm.
Thursday.
Yeah,
And
and
Pretty.
it's just her. Nobody else.
Oh,
no,
she
she's
has
got
lots of help.
drivers.
I thought there
Yeah.
had a lot of
Yeah, they
help.
kind of
So,
split up the different regions, and they'll head different
okay.
areas, and it's pretty much, I would say, 40 to 45 weeks out of the year
Mhm.
that she'll have something to deliver. Now, again, it's seasonal.
Yeah.
You're not getting tomatoes in January, but
Yeah.
she'll have a lot of collards and lettuce and kale and things like that in the winter months, and now squash and zucchini and tomatoes are coming on, and um, but there's one school of thought that says you should eat very seasonally.
Yeah,
You shouldn't be eating strawberries in January. Whatever is growing or
that's
whatever you could store to that point is what you should be eating at that time of year. Um, so, again, if you're uh, adaptable,
yeah.
then it's a great way to be.
Well, you could
Yeah,
supplement
you
a
can
little bit
always
too.
supplement too.
Yeah, if you needed, if you had to get your strawberry
That's
fix,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now let's get to the bad part, the cost. So here's the thing: there's a group of stores, and we're going to call them the holler stores because they're usually found down in hollers,
Uh-huh.
and they have one about every 3 or 4 miles.
Yeah.
And there's been some backlash on the way they're marketing to certain groups because it's so much easier just to go there and buy
Sure.
instead of go be a little more picky and choosy. So I will say right out the gate that I'm not being the devil's advocate here. I am saying I believe 100% that the value is there. And I see that because in my business, you can get a car painted for $20,000 and you'll get what you pay for. And that sounds like a lot of money, but most of our jobs are going to be more like you can starting at 50,
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to get but I know what goes into that. I know how many hours there is. So there's a value there, and you have to look at that value based on convenience or health, nutrition, supporting local.
Yeah.
I'm big into supporting local. So what would I be looking at on prices as far as per pound for beef, ground beef, pork? And I want my audience to keep in mind that you're not buying a pound of hamburger that's been processed
Sure.
and positioned all over, to last a certain amount of time, and even water injected. I mean, they have
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy stuff
Well,
for weight. So,
we never feel like we have to defend our prices. So,
well, I'm not asking you to.
yeah.
I'm defending your prices
No,
for you
that's fine.
because I just want the people listening to know that there is a value as to what you
Yeah.
guys are, there's
Do you want to throw out
there.
some prices?
We can-
I think ground beef a pound is 9.50 a pound. Um, whole chicken would be $6 a pound, and they average about 4 pounds, so $24 for. And again, it fluctuates. So yeah, we might have some chickens that are 3 pounds. We might have some that are 4.5 pounds.
Right.
Um,
Breakfast sausage is like
breakfast
11,
sausages, 10,
9.
$9 or $10 a
We
pound.
have a posted price
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
us.
that's fine.
Like a ribeye steak, I think would be $22 a pound.
See, that's not out of. I was
Yeah.
shocked the other day when I went to a local store and the ribeye was choice, nothing, $23 for one steak, and I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I could go to the have someone cook it for me for that much. But so you're not out of. I don't think you're out of the
No, well, like
range
she
of.
said earlier, first thing we do, we look at all of our costs and we figure out how much do we need to make. And then we'll pull up the USDA. You can go online and find the USDA report for that week for grass-fed beef prices.
That month.
And they will range, I mean,
Yeah,
$20 range. And you can just imagine a grass-fed steak in New York versus a grass-fed steak in Mississippi. Going to
sure.
be two totally different costs. We're usually somewhere in that middle, right in the middle,
Yeah,
which, I always make sure I know my price before I look at that page because I want to make sure I'm not skewing what in my mind I want it to come out as. And so we feel good about our prices. And, you know, uh, someone always used to tell me, you're going to pay for your food
right.
one way or the other. You're either going to pay more for it now or you're going to pay more for it later in medical bills,
Yeah,
and some way you're going to pay for it. So you can spend a little bit more. You can know where your food came from. You can know what your food ate. You can know your farmer and spend a little bit more money on it now and feel better about buying it. Or you can go to the grocery store and buy
yeah,
that bag of chips, buy those ho hos, whatever. And, if that's what you eat in
yeah.
15 years, where are you
Well,
going to be? So,
there is a saying out there that says something along the lines of, you're going to have pain, whether it's the pain of discipline or pain of regret, but the
yeah,
pain of regret is much worse. I'm going to think here that it would be more that you're going to feel the effects of the same, basically the same thing,
Mhm.
yeah,
um, and how much you're willing, how much you value that is.
yeah.
It's a hard
It's
thing
all
too because people don't look at that. I mean, you're young and you're 20 and you're like, hey, you don't think about those latter, how this is going to
Sure.
affect you long term. And I look at that sometimes, and I'm horrible about sweets and sugar. You may not, you probably can tell that, but I'm horrible about that. And then I'll be eating a something I shouldn't be eating before I get home, so my wife doesn't know. And I'll sit there and I go, how many hours of my life did I just
Yeah.
consume?
Yeah.
And I'll stop and I'll put it down and I'll throw it away when I get home because I want to live a long time, and I have a young family, and for my age, so I gotta stay strong for a while.
Well, we're
So
not perfect either.
No, we're
no,
It's
not.
not
yeah, well,
like this
no,
is all
I'm
we
not.
could eat. So
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have your
yeah.
days, yeah, but
Sometimes yeah.
but knowing,
Oh
And
yeah.
knowing,
and our
sometimes
kids
people don't
too.
know.
Yeah.
Our kids, we talk to them so much about food. I feel like a lot of people, especially children, don't understand how food works. And so we ask our kids all the time, what is your protein? And they're like, it's chicken. And we're like, what does protein do? They say protein is long term energy. We're like, okay, what is your carbohydrate? And they say rice. And we're like, okay, what does rice do? And they're like, that's 15 minutes of energy. We're like, right. Okay, what are your vegetables? What do they do? And oh, those are vitamins and minerals. And we're like, well, what do they do? They're like, well, they keep us from getting sick. We're like, okay. So then if you want a snack at the end of the day because you're hungry, okay, now look in the pantry. Which snack are you going to pick? Are you going to pick 15 minutes of energy? Or are you going to pick a long term energy source like nuts or something
Right.
like that? And to us, it was just so important that our kids understand food. I'm amazed at how many people maybe don't even understand that there are you eat different foods for different reasons. If you wake up
Sure.
in the morning and you need really short-term quick energy, you're going to eat cereal or a bagel. If it's the end of the day and you need some overnight protein to keep you, full for the night, that's what you need to eat. And so our kids will spout off all the time, oh, it's a short-term energy or a long-term energy or but we want them to understand why you're eating that food. And then it's much less of a fight when if they don't want the vegetable that Justin has made for dinner, we're like, "Okay, go pick a different one." Like
Right.
that's fine. But you have to meet this category for
Right.
a full dinner. And
And that's important for kids because they're actually still building their
Yeah.
body. Their body needs a certain amount of stuff to build.
And
So
one day we're not going to be there setting their plate, and so they
yes,
need to be able,
hmm
uh, you
they
know,
need to make
they
those
need to
choices
make the
correct, and
right
we
choices. And so
we got to
hopefully
give them that.
someday in the back of their head they hear Mama saying, "You need a protein."
Yeah, and it makes it a lot easier too. Then, so I know you guys have got some plans, and we've gone quite a bit. I have so many other questions that I have, but I am definitely going to check out the websites, and I'm going to make an order. So I want to say that for me, I want to make some order because it's important to me. Like I said, we used to sit down. Well, yeah, Tristan's like wanting me to order stuff for him too. Um, so we would sit down at every meal and have and or 3 or 4 days a week we would sit down and have a meal, and it was cooked. And I can come home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and I can start from raw potatoes, raw meat, raw rice, raw this, and I can make a meal. But fortunately, I learned that because of restaurants and
Yeah.
things that I've done. And it's a no-no in a restaurant to buy anything pre-made. You've got people there,
Yeah.
you're paying, so So that was something good for me. So the thing that is, I do know though that it is really hard on a lot of families that don't know how to do that. And I think there's going to have to be more education, more people pushing to show the importance of nutrients in their foods and things like
Yeah.
that.
And you mentioned convenience earlier. That's a huge thing. Even us, we've got the three kids. We're at baseball games. It's hard to find the time to make that meal or whatever. But um, we try really hard to make a meal before the game and
Yeah,
eat right. So, but sometimes it's just easier to swing by the
yeah,
drive-through
and that
and get it done. Which,
no cleanup.
yeah, no cleanup. It's
I've
we
quick.
don't
It's
really
easy.
do that. We
No,
only
we
eat
don't
it.
ever.
We don't do that. We eat
Not,
at like 4.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
they're
for
but
like,
I
me,
we
understand
just
why
ate
people
lunch.
would do.
I mean, and again, it goes back to education. For me, I will I'll make spaghetti, and I'll make it from scratch. But I won't make my noodle and my pasta, but pretty much. Um, and I'll make enough that I know there's going to be enough there plus,
Yeah.
and then I'll bag it, put it in the freezer. So
Yeah.
then all you got to do is throw that in, and you got a lunch one day. Same thing with when I do pork chops or anything. I'll cook all of it,
Yeah.
and then I have that available quick. That makes that convenient. We're gonna have to figure out a way to help start educating the people on that because A lot of them grown up not knowing anything other. I have a guy that works for me, and he doesn't know how to cook. He
Yeah.
Everything comes out of a microwave, and he gets everything from the hauler store. So
Yeah.
there's going to be it's going to be a long term process that you're going to have this, like you said, with when your calf passed away, and you just got to stick with it. You got to keep moving forward. And I hope the conversations like this can continue to go on. And I really appreciate you guys coming down here and
Yeah.
taking your day. I know we had a little trying to get this studio set up, and that was on me and trying to make everything work. But I'm glad we went ahead and did it, because
Yeah.
if we would have postponed it a week or two,
Yeah.
I would have
Thanks for
realized,
having me.
yeah. So, and I know you guys got plans, so I hope you enjoy I hope you still have time.
We'll be fine. Did you want him to finish the story about the
Yeah,
farm and his
yeah,
masters or no?
absolutely. I mean, this is. So I turn myself. You, I'm just trying. I don't want. I have all the time in the world, and these guys have to stay until I say go. So,
So
if you want to put a little bit of that in there,
where do you want me
absolutely.
to start?
Yeah,
Oh, talk slow.
yeah,
No, so you said, I don't know where you left off that
yeah. We jumped
like
from.
we missed the part of how we had Porter, you got your master's, and then we found the farm in Princeton.
Yeah, we
That
never
was that
really
Oh.
part
got
you
the
skipped.
origin
Yeah.
You
story.
were
There was.
teaching at Brown Mackey, I think, when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
trailed
So we were
off
living
to
in
something.
Cincinnati, and then I don't even remember. I don't remember how it really came about, but I think I started seeing Joel Salatin and maybe some of these videos about that, and it was reminding me of the time in Tennessee at the farm, and I just decided like I knew I knew what I didn't know. I didn't grow up on a farm. I didn't know how to run farm finances. I didn't know how to build. I knew how to build a fence. I didn't know how to manage a pasture or manage different animals. So I knew I needed more education. So I found a program at Colorado State called Integrated Resource Management, and it was basically a crash course in agriculture, like a business course, an animal health course, um, like a farm planning course, a markets course, and all these different things. So I got my master's, and then through that, I needed another internship. And luckily, in Cincinnati, there's a place called Green Acres Foundation, um, and it is a basically a research farm that was set up. You can double check me on this. One of the old owners of the Cincinnati Reds left money to this foundation and her farm, and now they do research for grass-fed beef and pastured poultry, and they raise sheep and turkeys. They do all these different things, and so I was lucky enough to go there, and I met the farm director, and he happened to have gone to Colorado State and gone through the exact same program that I was going through, and he was a really smart guy, and so that really got me going, seeing all these things on this one farm and how they work together, and so about this time she's pregnant with our first child, and then so we were renting a house and both working two jobs, and we start looking for houses in the suburbs, and we're looking at this one house that's 2 hours away from both of our work. It's in northern Kentucky next to the airport, and it's like cookie cutter everything.
Yeah.
And we're standing in the basement of this house, and I just looked at her and I was like, no, we can't do this. this
Yeah.
this ain't gonna work. And she said, I'm with you. And so right then we decided we need to start looking for a farm out in the county or something. And so we looked around northern Kentucky for a while. Nothing was coming up. I'm from down here in western Kentucky. So we decided, well, we can move down there closer to your family. And so we found a realtor, gave her some things that we needed from the farm.
33 things.
Yeah, and that
33 things.
it
33
was a
things.
lot.
Man, that's somebody knows their numbers. Can
Yeah.
remember that. There was 33.
Well, the farm that she presented
Yeah.
had 32.
Wow. So pretty darn close.
So it looked good. And so we decided, let's go for it. And we left. I quit my job. Because another big deal was, I was teaching at this small college. I wasn't making a lot, but in order to do it, we were going to have to get a daycare. So I was going to be spending basically my whole income for daycare for my child, and that was another big thing that hit me. Like, why am I going to have this kid and then just let someone
Somebody else
else
raise it.
raise him? We could have a farm, and if we lived in Western Kentucky, our cost of living is going to go down. Kate can have her off-farm job. I can get the farm started, and still take care of our son. And that's exactly what we did. So we moved down and you know
Never look back,
never looked back. And now
or maybe look back just a little bit, but every once in a while in the hard
she
days.
misses Target every now and
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get one in soon.
It was kind of nice.
Yeah. So when you were in that basement, and he said, "Ah, this isn't going to work for me." Did you look around and go, "Well, it can kind of work for me," but
No,
no, you were on
it was
board.
like the most drab. I think it was like that house. It was
Okay, so
like
it
a
kind of helped.
drab, nothing unique.
Yeah,
not close to
Not
anything.
we were at that point we had gone so far away from where we wanted to be, but when you're looking for a house, you go a little bit farther and a little
yeah,
bit farther and a little bit farther. And he just said, "Why are we waiting?
yeah.
Like, why are we waiting to get a farm?" And I was like, "Well, money, you know,
Sure.
that." So, but it it all worked out the way it was supposed to work out, and um, so there was a little bit of the moment of, oh, you mean right now?
Surreal.
Like,
Yeah,
oh, right now.
yeah,
But I think living in the city, and then once our oldest was born, um, it he couldn't like play outside that much,
sure.
and I grew up playing in the woods in Louisville, and um, that's just how what we wanted to be.
Yeah,
And so he stays home with the kids. I work from home. And then our oldest was starting kindergarten during COVID.
yeah,
And we had talked about homeschool, but we weren't like totally sure if it would be a good fit for us. But once COVID came and we tried like hybrid kindergarten or something ridiculous, it was terrible.
yeah.
We did it for like 2 weeks and we were like, no.
Decision made for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we just kind of said it's worked. So,
yeah.
they do school from like 9 to 1 or 2, and then the kids go out and play on the farm and
Learn more probably there than
Mm.
they would anywhere
Yeah.
else. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Tristan was homeschooled, and my daughter took a year off from school too. That we worked with them, and you know, it was just hustle and bustle always. But for Tristan, he was a very outgoing kid and people person, and we lived in a very rural area until we moved to a town, an area where there was friends, and he was on the bike and outgoing
Yeah.
always. There's a lot to be learned just experiencing life. So that would be another topic that I'd like to get a little more into maybe next time is the homeschooling because it's I've done it. I know it's kind of the reasons why a lot of people do and making it possible. But so do you mind telling me what you do for your outside your other job or?
sure, my off farm job. So I work for a global manufacturer and I'm the senior marketing manager. So I've been at that company 10 years.
Oh wow,
Most employees are remote. So most corporate employees are remote. So I manage a team that's spread out around the country. And so
that's could be a handful, I'm sure.
it is, I have to travel a lot,
Yeah,
but I've worked from home for 10 years.
Ever since we moved to the farm. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, well,
Before
before
COVID,
then,
before it was.
well, I worked from home before I
Yeah, that's
moved to the
true.
farm.
yeah,
Um, so they've been really flexible as long as I get my work done and get to the airport. It's
yeah,
fine.
on time, right?
Hmm.
So I got a few really quick questions for
Sure.
you, and these are kind of the podcast questions, and I already know the answer to this one. Are you guys happy?
Oh
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, we're very happy.
Yeah,
yeah.
But it's work.
yeah,
We set out some expectations for each other in the beginning and we've worked really hard to stick to those. Um, there are a lot of opportunities that we could grow big fast.
sure.
But we've been very mindful and very cautious to stick back to why we're doing this. And um, I'm very, very happy.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think that's something I need to kind of reflect on in my life. I keep adding more, and there is a reason that we do all this, and it's not to just become wealthy, which is not something I've been
Yeah.
fortunate at all. So, I had a lady that works for me. She says, "You realize you bust your ass to be poor?" And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Yeah, I get it." So
Well, if you can
yeah,
find something to bust your ass at that
you got to
makes you happy, it
right.
won't matter that you're
Well, I could
not
get it.
rich.
That's a whole nother podcast. I got to
Yeah.
get in because I used to love I loved the cars. I could touch them and they would talk to me, and we kind of lost our way. Me and the cars kind of lost our way with all the people that got involved.
Hmm.
And yeah, so, but that's like I said, another podcast. So, what do you think the meaning of life is? Yeah.
We just read a book with the kids the other night, actually. It's called The Meaning of Life. It's like a little coffee table book, but It was exactly what we were just talking about. It was you've got to find what you're happy doing. You know,
Yeah.
for me, if I had Kate's job,
Be
I'd
miserable.
be miserable. Sit in an office all day long and talk about synergy and quarter two numbers and
Yeah.
I just it would drive me absolutely crazy. So but I thank God for Kate because I would not be able to do, what I enjoy, if it wasn't for her doing that. And
Yeah.
she seems to enjoy the corporate and getting things done and schedules. And I mean, I'm terrible with a schedule. I tomorrow, I know maybe what I'm doing tomorrow.
Yeah.
She'll sit me down and be like, all right, well, in September, I've got to go here. And I'm thinking, just
How
tell
can
me
you
in
do?
September. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll remember. So, you got to find what you're happy doing,
Yeah.
or it doesn't matter how much money you're making, you're just going to be miserable,
Right.
and, you know, I've had jobs where it was like that, where it was sitting inside and I was just thinking, I got to get out of here. I don't
Right.
care, how much I make or whatever else is going on. This is just not going to work. So,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Well, you get best of both worlds though. You get to go out and take on the corporate world, and then when you're done, you can turn the laptop off and be at your farm.
Go dig in my dirt.
Yeah, enjoy. Yeah, just kind of be grounded, really,
Yeah.
right there. Yeah, that's great. Well, guys, I really do appreciate you coming out. We didn't touch, I think, even though we had several couple hours here, I don't think we touched on it nearly enough. There's so much more that I'd like to talk to you about, and I think that maybe coming out there to take a look around. And
Yeah.
so, your kid, you how many children do you have? Before we don't want to leave them out.
Yep.
So
Three.
Three.
three, and what's their names?
Porter, Holt, and Page.
Porter, Holt, and
Yeah.
Page. Yeah. So what's the age range?
10, 8, and tomorrow 7. Page
Wow,
will be 7 tomorrow.
really close
Yeah,
there. Yeah, that's
18 months apart, each one of them.
yeah. So, I'm sure they love to farm and animals, and
Yeah,
for now.
yeah, no, they're helping. We've got some layers right now, layer chickens just enough for the family. But we've got a rooster, Oscar, and the kids are
Mhm.
Oscar
really
the
big.
Grouch.
he's
What are you
he's
gonna
cantankerous, so the kids really are getting a kick out of messing with, dealing with this big mean rooster, and
What
getting
are you
the
gonna
eggs, and
What are you gonna do when they grow up and say, "Hey, Dad, I want to go to law school. I don't want to be a farmer."
that's fine.
Yeah, you got to do what you love,
Well, yeah,
or
like
what you want.
I grew up in the city. I feel like all the time, because I grew up in the city and I didn't grow up doing it. That's why I thought the farming was cool. I had a cousin that lived on that farm, and he was like, "What are you talking about?
Yeah,
This is ridiculous. I want to go to town. I want to go to Paducah. And, that's the cool thing." So, if they grow up and they don't like it, as long as they find something that they do like
yeah.
that makes them happy.
Sometimes we think we go out looking like the prodigal son, and then we come back to
Yeah,
oh yeah. Now I truly miss the farm that I was raised on, and I can remember being so bored though
yeah,
that I would take like colored flowers and stuff and put in these big and I would throw it in the air and act like it was fireworks because I was so bored. But it was just, it wasn't a lot of, I was there with my grandmother.
yeah.
So,
Well, you
Being
made
bored,
but
so
now
fireworks.
being bored sounds so good.
yeah,
Yeah, I would
But
love
I
that.
think too, because we try not to make the farm, and I'm going to word this carefully, we try not to make the farm stressful. Now, having a farm inherently is stressful.
Sure.
The pigs get out, the cows get out, a fox got a chicken, a fence broke, we have a short somewhere. He's got problem every day on the farm.
Right.
But the parts of the farm that we can control, volume, sales, profit, all of those things, we we don't make those things stressful. And I think, well, my hope is that the kids, as they get older, will not see the farm as stressful,
Right.
which I think some people just are so stressed because they have so many responsibilities, you know, maybe just because they're doing it differently than us.
Yeah.
But you know, I I want them to remember the farm as, fun.
Something they
yeah.
love to
A
do,
place to
Yeah.
play and run in the
enjoy.
woods and
Yeah.
play with
Fish and
Oscar, and
And
yeah,
learn and not even realize you're learning.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's the trick. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for coming down and spending the time with me.
Yeah,
Maybe we'll schedule that in the next maybe fall time. Give us in a way. Maybe I
sure.
don't know when your slow time is, if you have a slow time, but
Fall would be it, I would say.
yeah.
we could come down and maybe spend some time down there and walk through and get some
Yeah,
footage. And then if you would, if you didn't add some of those things like the farm that you work with to your info sheet, if you could send that to me,
Yeah.
that way we make sure we get that all pulled up and Tristan will scour
Is
the
your
internet.
email? Can
It's
you send me an email and then I can respond with the
yeah,
links of?
and you can have my phone number too. I mean,
Okay. I think I got it where you
yeah, that's
had
right.
text
You
me.
do. Yeah, you can anything you want,
Okay.
however makes it easy for you. Thanks a lot. I look forward to it. This will be coming out pretty quickly, so I'll be in touch, and it's going to be cool.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we're going to sell a lot of beef. All
Sounds
right.
good.
All right. Thanks again.
What exactly happened down there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I talked to him and blah, blah, blah. He asked about you guys and da-da-da-da-da, more questions, blah, blah, blah.